What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations.
Something's got to separate you from the rest. So you got to be willing to do whatever.
In my experience, black men have struggles like having community with each other.
But she represents the mammy stereotype.
Now that was epic. I needed that. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. Excuse me. That is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care, and being part of that team, reach out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. We are broadcasting on a very important day in Canadian history. It is April 28th, federal election. Lots talked about, lots of different issues. And we're going to be on till at least until hopefully a winner is declared. But I am very happy to be joined by my cohort on Black Canada Talking on Sundays at 5 p.m. live. He is here, and I'm going to bring him up after you make sure his hat is probably good to go. All right, Cesar Nadima Musa is in the house. How are you, Cesar? Sorry.
Good, Dr. Vibe. How are you? How are you doing? How's everybody?
Everyone is fine. I just need to do one other thing. There we go. Absolutely, I'm doing fine. Could be a few hours here. it could be a few hours. What have you been up to today, and what's been going on in your world?
Well, no, nothing much. But since yesterday, so my daughter fell asleep 15 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. The boss of the house, yes.
I put it to bed. My wife has a professional night, so she's coming back home, and I think it's important, notably as we talk about the work-life balance, and notably for someone like me who works a lot, still important to give our ladies time to themselves, time to re-energize,
100%,
and be able to manage multiple fronts. But yeah, I'm here, and interestingly, you have put the heading in blue.
I knew once I put that up, people may say, "Are you supporting?" And it's just the background I use for all the doctors. I can certainly change it if people want me to change it. Neutral color, but
blue's my favorite color.
Oh, there you go. I'm doing it more for Cesar than myself. There you go. Did you vote today?
I did. I went to vote. We were there 15 minutes before the opening of the voting booth, and I went with my daughter, 3-year-old, showing her civic duty, taking photos, and I put one line of the X, and she put the other line on the X.
Was it intentional that you brought your daughter to vote?
Absolutely intentional. It's not intentional in the sense of I didn't even share this or post this, but it's kind of to many of these things that we talk about in the Black community, and this is something I always talk about. It starts at home. Civic engagement starts at home. Black consciousness starts at home. Black pride. I mean, I put it to bed. I don't know if I ever told you, she, every night, even when I'm at the hotel, we say our affirmations. I'm intelligent. I'm beautiful. I'm brave. I'm Black and proud. My name is Zaza, and I love me. Every night, even when I'm at the hotel, doesn't matter. So it starts at home. Excellent. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. And for people who are watching this live, please chime in with comments. We'd love to, wherever you're watching this, please chime in with comments. And It could be a long night. It could be a long night. Cesar, before we really kick into things, any thoughts on what we may see today or this evening?
Well, Dr. Vibe, many people have been talking about a liberal majority. I still find that hard to believe. I mean, I was talking with a buddy, a neighbor, white guy who lived in the States. And me and him, we always talk about politics, social issues. And he says the polls in Canada are more accurate than in the States. He didn't vote himself because to him, he doesn't see enough of a difference between the two. But to him, who says the polls in Canada are more accurate than in the States, and he we have great political conversations, but as he told me, he would never come on screen on camera to say the things that he tells me. What he says is the polls are more accurate. He called rightfully, like I remember last year. I mean, I was here with you thinking Kamala would win. No, he was calling it right, and he literally called it right. He was like, Cesar, don't underestimate the mindset of Americans.
That's a loaded statement these days.
So, I mean, personally, I find it hard to believe that liberals would win a majority. Winning, yes, a majority, but if you're honest, all these votes that the NDP seem to be losing strategically in this election, and on the conservative side, the fact that Pierre Poilievre does not have a strong likability factor. I mean, the removal of glasses and appearing more in a dress shirt, and the latest move to talk a little bit more of his nonverbal autistic child, it comes off way too calculated and not genuine. Unlike someone like Jagmeet Singh. Jagmeet Singh has a strong likability factor, but Jagmeet Singh, the brown guy wearing a turban in a third party candidate. If Jagmeet Singh was liberal or conservative, I could see him being able to win, but no. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
So it's going to be interesting. I am seeing a country that's becoming more and more divided, two-party wise. That, as you mentioned, the NDP, it seems that the NDP support is slipping, and prognosticators saying a lot of that vote is going to the Liberal Party.
Yes, and in Canada, the conversation has happened many times in terms of, there should just be a fusion between the NDP and the Liberal Party. But I wouldn't think it's quite accurate to look at it that way, because ultimately the NDP tends to be further left than the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party is centered, like, to the left, but to the center, to the left of the center, one would say, while the NDP, if we were to use an American analogy, the NDP is Bernie Sanders and Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. The Democrats in majority are not that progressive. The Liberals in majority are not that progressive either. The division, yes, but the division is relative, because even when you look now, to my understanding, of course, without Trudeau's resignation, I mean, from the moment Trudeau resigned, the Conservatives were in trouble. I saw this chart that basically showed January 25th, the day Trudeau resigned, that's when things started to change. And then Trump's tariff, that's literally when the wave started. So it's not so much that the Conservative lost that much support. They did lose, but it's more that the Liberals gained that much more, notably due to the losses to the NDP. And when you look at even in Quebec, the separatist Bloc Québécois. People. It's one thing for people to want more autonomy for the province of Quebec. It's another thing for people to vote against Canadian interests when there is an orange man in the US talking about Canada becoming the 51st state and Quebecers looking at themselves as already a minority in Canada. How much more of a minority would they be in the United States? So
I hear where you're coming from. Want to say hello to Minnie on Cam. How are you doing, Minnie on Cam? Always good to see you in the house. Definitely would like to hear your comments as we go throughout the evening. What I'm going to do is Cesar and I were on yesterday on Black Canada talking, and the response was crazy. We were talking about the election, and there were some questions yesterday that I said we'd bring over to this evening. So while things are going on, I'm going to bring up one of the questions that came up yesterday. Jerry Freckleton asked Cesar, do you find Black conservatives compromised and not authentically Black?
basically, what did I say yesterday about that? So the first thing is that we have to be careful when we talk about authentically Black, as in this world of white supremacy, you will be seen and judged first and foremost by the color of your skin, aka Black, independently of your political affiliations, just as whether you are African or descendant of slavery, aka a diaspora Black, or your level of education, etc., etc. I mean, we live in a world in which the first Black president of the United States, Barack Obama, was still referred to by the N-word in some newspaper in his own country, and a rich and famous billionaire like Oprah was mistakenly assumed to be a shoplifter in a diamond store in Switzerland. This is the reality of being Black. But if we really talk in terms of politics, the issue is less in terms of Black conservative being compromised, because, example, I can't remember if his brother, the same brother, or the other one, J.J. Morris, talking about the NOI, Nation of Islam, being conservative. You see, the Nation of Islam are conservative without being sellout and racially complex to the Republican Party, aka the conservative. What I find in terms of Black conservatives in the US, as in Canada, as in France, where I grew up, is simply that too much of a tendency to excuse and try to justify the misbehavior of white conservative elites, which include not addressing and not even recognizing systemic racism. And I gave the perfect example of people such as Thomas Sowell, Candace Owens, and Byron Donald, and Mark Robinson of South Carolina, Tim Scott. Those brothers and sisters of skin who are definitely not brothers and sisters of the mind. I mean, let's not forget, what's that expression again? Um, not all kinfolk are kinfolk.
Not all skin folk
And
are kinfolk.
exactly. So, basically this is where it comes down to, because, you know, like I said, the black community tend to vote left in terms of the social and political history, but in terms of community within, the Black community is quite very much conservative in majority. Very much conservative in majority.
Okay. All right. All right. So I'm just as if you see me looking around, folks, I have some other tabs open, and it just looking to see how things are going right now. It seems that the networks have 23 seats for the Liberals, 10 for the Conservatives, 1 for the Bloc Québécois. So most of these projections right now are based on what's happening out east in the eastern part of Canada. But I heard one of the pugnates say that the results, especially for the Liberals in Eastern Canada. They said if they would have predicted this 6 months ago, they would have said there would have been no way that they would have been doing so well in the East Coast. And one of the things I'm going to watch tonight is how is the Liberal surge going to stop once it hits the Manitoba Ontario border?
Yeah.
You know, is it going to stop there? And I guess the Liberals are really kind of, let's get as many seats as we can
In Ontario.
in Ontario and Quebec in the Maritimes. Now I heard BC could be
BC.
could be going a little bit liberal itself.
The
We'll have to
NDP is
see.
going to lose many votes in BC. Is likely to lose many votes in BC, but also could lose many votes in Manitoba and even Alberta. Because remember, this is not 10 years ago with the Alberta. How do you call that? The gas and the energy situation here. Poverty has been increasing. Texas of the North is an expensive place to live also.
Okay. Another conversation point that we didn't get to yesterday we can address here is because the polls in Ontario don't close till 9:30. So we have some filler time again. Great time to ask Cesar or myself some questions while the results start to get tabulated around 9:30. Yesterday, a gentleman, Jerry Feckelstein, said to Cesar, "Thank you for bringing up Leslyn Lewis. Yes, she ran for the Conservative leadership twice. Do you think the Conservative voter base would ever vote for a Black candidate for Prime Minister?"
No, I don't think so. But the reason I don't think so, it would be easy to think, or to hear me saying this and think I'm just saying conservatives are racist. No, that's not it. There are racists also on the left. There are racists among the Democrats in the US, just as among liberals, just as socialists in France, etc. The problem becomes, what would it take for a Black candidate to put themselves in a prime situation of being seen as the candidate for the Republican, conservative, etc., even right-wing party? What kind of alienation and rejection of Black identity does it require? If we are to be truly honest, how often do we hear Black conservative? And I'll give you a perfect example. I forgot to mention this at the beginning. I went to the gym today. I only had an hour because, I had to come back home for my lady to go have her professional night, right?
Yep.
I didn't work out. I sat on a shoulder press machine, ready to lift the whole machine, and I didn't even get to lift it. I was interrupted by a young cousin of mine who surprised me, not so much because he said he was going to vote for Pierre Poilievre, the conservative, but because he was spewing racist white supremacist logic, including that Blacks have lower IQ, including the state of Black families and so many other things. And yet, guess what? He's educated. He has a good job. He is educated. He has a good job. And I'm absolutely not talking of him kind of to tarnish his name if he listens and recognizes himself. No. We had a great one-hour conversation. Like it's, when people say, I've done my research, I'm not biased, and like confronting him with, you're able to say this about Black people, would you say that on camera? No, you wouldn't. Now, would you dare to say this truth about white people? He wouldn't. It kind of like, and please don't get me wrong, he's in his mid-20s. I told him, it is great that we're having this conversation. If you were 20 years older, if you're my age, I'd call you an idiot and I wouldn't even bother. But you're in your mid-20s, a result of environment. You are Black privileged. And thus, you will tend to lean conservative. I mean, he's talking about immigration as if he's a white immigrant. He's a white person whose ancestors came here 200 or 300 years ago. I'm like, idiot. I'm your cousin. I came to this country with your mom. Like literally, you are the son of immigrants. If there's a party that comes here and says immigrants or black people go back to your countries, you think they're gonna tell you to say because you're born in Canada? How much racial alienation would it take for a black candidate? Not so much for conservative to vote for a black person. Conservatives can vote for a black person. Leslie Lewis came in, I believe, third in the conservative leadership. There are black conservatives who get elected in the US. But for the voter base to vote for a black candidate, what would it take for that black person to deny their own blackness, to deny historical, social, economic, and political issues that create the disparities and disproportionalities that we see in regards to black people?
Okay, I'm gonna hold you right there. Oh well, Ryan Knight was with us, and then he turned his camera off. But we should be joined by Ryan Knight. He's actually at a watch party right now, so we're waiting for him to cam back up so we can get him on. As we talk a little bit more, because polls will close in Ontario in about 7.5 minutes, and just to do a reset here. You are watching the Canada Federal Election Watch Party on the Dr. Vibe Show live on April 28th. Young people, especially young men, from what I've been reading, more and more young men are leaning conservatives, aka how young men in the United States were leaning conservative. What do you have to say about that trend, potential trend?
Oh, it is totally normal. It's unsurprising. Now, if we are to be honest, what kind of young men? It is overwhelmingly disaffected young men. It is overwhelmingly uneducated young men. Now, please, I don't want anyone to take offense to what I'm saying in my narrative here. I'm talking about young men who overwhelmingly tend to feel frustrated at the evolution of the Western society, which has elevated young and older women to place of privilege that they think has meant their loss of privilege. Basically, we're talking about young men who have been refusing to adapt to the realities of the modern society. Dr. Vibe, what did I say coming into the show? I put my daughter to bed maybe 15 minutes. My daughter fell asleep in my arms about 15 minutes ago. I got prepped and ready to come. And while I'm talking to you, my wife is texting me saying she had to stop at Shoppers before she comes back home. This is a modern day couple. It's a modern day, like, you see what I mean? It's like I can be professional, I can be involved in the community, and I can still allow for my lady to succeed and prosper professionally, and to have, to be able to go out for dinner with friends. You see what I mean? Most of these young men, unfortunately, tend to live with a fabricated vision of the past in terms of, a patriarchal pre-1960 society of the alpha male, because they always keep being bombarded about being an alpha male, which also requires having a submissive woman. More and more women are refusing to be submissive, and how can I disagree with that when I am a girl dad myself? When I have two sisters that I love? When, as I explained to my cousin, I was talking to her at the gym because he did bring up that question. I'm telling you, I had a great conversation. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that he wouldn't come on the show, but I'm telling you, he's an intelligent and eloquent mid-20s-year-old young man. He's also a passport bro. That's an entire other conversation. But But no, we had a
That's
great
true.
conversation. Yeah, we had a great conversation, and part of it, he inquired about what I thought about, you know, being the provider, aka him being a man as a provider and having a submissive woman. And I told him, submissive means submission. You can't have submission without domination. So you would dominate a woman because you have more money, but domination means oppression, aka you oppressing her. So what happens when you meet a woman who earns more than you and tells you to become submissive? Will you accept? He laughs. He's like, of course not. But you would want that to be with a woman like that? You don't have sisters, but what if you have daughters tomorrow? So a lot of these young men who are leaning to the right, well, it's in parallel of more and more women, young women, leaning to the left. This polarization. So this is more the polarization that I would agree to, far more than a matter of the country being divided. I mean, just as when we talk about Donald Trump, and I was talking, my friend, my white neighbor from the States, who called
Okay.
everything right.
I'm going to hold you for a moment
Mhm.
politely. Ryan is on, so I don't know how long he's going to be on for. Let's see if you can hear us. Ryan?
And I can hear you, but my headset's not working, so it might be loud.
Oh, it is loud. How you doing?
Things are good. Things are good.
Good.
Hold on, let me see if I move over one.
Where are you, brother Ryan?
Hey, brother Caesar. I don't know why my headphones won't work with the StreamYard, but if you can hear me okay, I'm here.
Yeah, we can hear you. Just before we get to speak, Ryan, Minion Cam says, I talked about how none of the panel discussions leading up to the elections talked about the disability of black. Your audio is okay. Ryan, I'm just gonna put you on mute for a second because
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that's better. Okay, no problem. So Ryan, yeah, well, Minion Cam also hardly anything about the black environment was talked about during this election. As I said, the only thing that I had heard was the Liberal government promising to dedicate $140 million to continue and make permanent the Black Entrepreneurship Fund. Didn't hear anything else. Didn't see any of the major leaders show up at any black organized events in regards to the election. Minion Cam also says it was not talked about at all. Welcome, Dr. Tachi in the house. Good to see you here. Ryan, you can certainly unmute yourself, and if you have anything you want to add. Okay, he's saying, hold on a minute, no problem. And Minion Cam says the disability panel had people burst in upset. Yeah. It seems that people who look like us weren't included in this campaign. That's why we're having this forum here this evening. Cesar, with Ryan trying to get his stuff together, anything more you want to say about what makes you think that this young black man is, and nothing wrong with it, but what was his root reasoning to vote conservative?
First of all, he's my cousin, so I had to give him a little bit of a reality check that he didn't know about.
Okay.
He grew up in privilege.
Okay.
I mean, I've known him since he's born. He grew up in privilege. Like I was saying, like he's talk about immigration made it sound like a white man, and I'm like, you do realize that if someone in power had your mindset, you wouldn't exist because your parents would have been kicked out of this country. Talking about immigrants come to this country with their values, and I'm like, well, when white people go around the world, what do you think they do? They bring their values as well. But this miseducation that we have with many young black men, and he is absolutely well-meaning. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying that because he's my cousin. He is intelligent, he's eloquent, but it's a miseducation that's also misguided, as the influences that these young men are having, and a false dream of being an alpha male, whether it be from video games to movies of the 50s, or with perceptions of religions,
Oh,
etc.
okay. So we got some heavy hitters coming here. Just give me a second. So Ryan, can you be back with us?
Yeah, let me know if you can hear me okay.
Yes, and we're not only bringing you on, but Mr. Wayne Harris has joined us also.
Hey, Wayne.
What is
What's
up,
going
Mr.
on, boys?
So
All good. Can you hear me?
Can hear you well. Good to have both you on. Thoughts as we go into could be a long evening.
Buddy, it's 35 ridings. Liberals have 24 seats. This is just the Maritimes, buddy. A long way to go.
It's a long night. It's a long night.
Yeah, but they're saying that they did better than they thought they were going to do in the Maritimes, the Conservatives. So they seem to be in good spirits based on the reports that I'm hearing. And now I know as more results come in the Eastern time zone, we're going to get a true sense of where the night's going.
Yeah, polls just closed in Ontario, so we are about to throw down. This is the battleground between Quebec and Ontario. You have 67% of the Canadian population. This is where the rubber meets the road. Now we're going to see.
Do either of you feel that either the PC or Liberal, or any of the gentlemen, any of you feel that either the parties, the Liberal or Conservative, will have a majority at the end of this evening?
I hope not. The best.
Wait, say again. If they have what?
A minority government.
Yeah, no, Ryan. I'm just saying. Do either of you Well, Cesar said he doesn't think there'll be a majority government tonight. Wayne says he doesn't want that to happen. What about you, Ryan?
If the Conservatives are tracking in the right direction, I think they'll go majority. Only because that would show that the people of Canada actually truly want change, and they shouldn't be, tiptoeing around it. It's either you want the Liberals to stay or you want to switch. So if that sentiment that it's time for a switch, 10 years in power is a long time. I mean, that run that the Conservatives had with Harper caused the long run with Trudeau. So now that long run with Trudeau could cause that strong flip as if people are really tired. Even though he's not the candidate, the politics will stick to whoever's behind him. Carney, I think, has done a good job of dancing around it. But if people of Canada truly want to change, you'll see a majority Conservative.
Well, here's I agree with that, because here's my statement. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times. Bad times create strong men. We're in bad times. You can't replace the guy with the guy who comes from the same party as the guy who caused the bad times. It doesn't make sense. It's not natural. So if Canada chooses to put this Liberal in power after a Liberal put them in bad times, it means we've lost our minds.
I agree.
Listen, I'm not going to say we lost our minds, but I will say the Conservatives are running a race where they don't really have to promise anything tangible. The Liberals had 10 years to build up tangible things that they've done to say, hey, if you want to keep these things, you got to keep us. The Conservatives are really hoping on the bet that it doesn't matter what the Liberals promise. People can see through the facade, they can see through the cash propaganda, and they just want to see a shift and Canada really get back to balancing, I would say, the books. But the unfortunate thing is Carney looks just like a Conservative in red clothing. He is very similar to Poilievre. He's an ex-banker, like a head banker, not even to say he worked in the bank. This guy was the leader of banks, like the most conservative industry, most conservative profession that exists. So Poilievre is staring at himself. So if people are looking like, well, do we want Poilievre or Poilievre 2.0? Because Carney, if you want to get conservative and talk about balancing the books, I'm shocked that they haven't really pushed harder into that. Hey, the Liberals, the whole economy needs a reset. and I've done it before, and I can do it again. Carney Moore went, okay, I'm putting on this liberal suit, and I'm gonna try and play to the propaganda game. But I think he should have went hard conservative, and he would have really put Poilievre on his back foot.
Yeah, I don't have any challenge with what you just said there. What I'm saying is people are going to say what they need to say to get what they need to get the votes to win. Once you are in power, then you can say, you know what? I thought I could do X, but now I know the truth. I can only do Y. I'm thinking about time to value. What do I mean by time to value? From the time you get the seat, you get the chair, to the time you can actually put policy in place to maintain your mandate, or to say you cannot do your mandate because of what you actually found when you pull the rug up, the person who has an advantage there is Carney, because he actually knows what's behind the curtain. Poilievre has no idea, since Stephen Harper, what's behind the curtain, and he has to learn what's behind the curtain before he can pull the curtain. Whereas
That's
Carney already knows,
experience.
right? So my challenge is, if the conservative was Stephen Harper, it'd be over for the Liberals. Because here's a guy who actually knows what's behind the curtain. Anyone other than Harper, or anyone who was not in Harper's cabinet at the pinnacle, the guy who could have won this with the Conservatives, died in Whitby, Flaherty. Guaranteed to win if he had run. There was another guy who I thought was pretty solid for a little while, Baird, John Baird. He might have been able to win. But all these guys have fallen to the wayside over the last 10 years. So they put Aaron O'Toole up there. They put Andrew Scheer up there. They put who else up there in the last number of years? And now the third guy doesn't even have the boogeyman, Trudeau, in the seat. And he's still not ahead in the polls. I'm baffled that these guys can't find anyone wearing blue who can even come close. Like, Trudeau's got to be the Michael Jordan of Canadian politicians. He's the GOAT, because even though he's gone, even though he did not do everything we wanted him to do or needed him to do to make Canada great again, he's gone and he's still holding the lead. That's how much power that last name has. Kudos to the Liberals for I think about Weekend at Bernie's, right? You just prop a guy up and say, look, Bernie's still alive. Anyway.
But
go ahead,
I will say, my brother, it is not just a matter of Trudeau, because you see, and Poilievre shot himself in the foot. He went so hard on demonizing Trudeau that he became his own enemy when Trudeau resigned, and unexpected, Trump did talk about bringing tariffs. The whole campaign in 2024 brought tariffs, including on Canada. So suddenly, for many Canadians, Poilievre didn't just sound like Trump of the North. He sounded like he's an ally of the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one thing to sound like Trump, whether you're in Canada as Poilievre, or in Brazil as Bolsonaro, or Argentina as Javier Milei. But if Trump is imposing tariffs on your country, suddenly you have many of your countrymen will start looking at you as if you are a minion of who they're not perceiving as the enemy. Trudeau stopped being the enemy. Trump became the enemy. And this further boosted the Liberal brand. It could be another Liberal there. I think the situation would likely be the same. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, and you are very correct, if it was Stephen Harper for the Conservative, it's not because it will be Stephen Harper. Because Stephen Harper, like him or dislike him, was respected, notably with experience and with strategy.
Mm-hmm.
When you have someone like Trump, when I was talking about experience, please don't get me wrong. I purposefully only, just like when I was talking to my cousin, pointing to him. Poilievre has been a member of parliament since age 24, but notice something else here. Poilievre did not want to do the security clearance in regards to the foreign interference from China. What kind of amateurism is this when all the other chiefs of parties in Canada, including Jagmeet Singh, did the security clearance to have access to those documents? It's irresponsible. It's amateurish. It is amateurish.
Why would he not want to have the clearance?
Is there something about him that he doesn't want to be investigated?
Or plausible deniability.
There you go. So you see, what kind of message does that send for those who pay attention to this type of things?
All right.
If he becomes prime minister, he's going to have to get the clearance.
Right.
Absolutely.
I just want to catch up on some comments. So Mignon Cam said the disability panel discussion had over 300 people in attendance. I counted 3 Black in attendance based on virtual attendance, and they ignored all my Black and disabled questions. And she says, while people colonialists, they bring, I don't know if it's wild or white people colonialism, while they bring their values and their diseases. Dr. Tachi says, are there independent candidates? Mignon Cam says, yes, there will be some, but they might win certain spots, not that popular. There was some in Ontario election. Mignon Cam says, what's the definition of insanity? Oh, it's that spy versus spy situation. She also says, thanks to Mignon Cam. And Mignon Cam says, I saw a handful of independents win the Ontario election or lose a position. So we're back up to comments, gentlemen. Continue on. As I'm looking at things right now, it's getting a little bit tighter. 41 Liberal, 31 Conservative. So
32 now.
32. So it's going to be a tight race.
Listen, I have nothing against Poilievre. Poilievre is a career politician and has experience in 2 junior cabinet roles over time. Because when Harper needed dogs, he was still a puppy, right? Harper had so many other options that had more experience and more gravitas at the time. You know, we're looking back at 2014, 2013. How old is Poilievre today? Is he 40? 40 what?
49, I believe.
49?
I think it's 49. I think that's
okay. So
late 70s.
Yeah. So Harper had more experienced war dogs at the time Poilievre was coming through. So as long as he got the mentorship, and Harper is endorsing him now. He didn't endorse him all the time he was bashing Trudeau, because you had 2 enemies as a PC. Trudeau was enemy number 1, and carbon tax was enemy number 2. The Liberals pulled the rug out and said, no more Trudeau, no more carbon tax. Now what are you going to talk about? Oh no, now I have to talk about policy. And he's only had the same length of time as Carney to have that conversation, because he wasted the last 3 years demonizing Trudeau, to Cesar's point. So that's why the race is closer than it should be. Had he been standing on policy and not just talking about what Trudeau was not doing for the last 3 years, he would have a much easier time tonight. But because of all the anti-Trudeau rhetoric for as long as he's been campaigning, he's basically in a dogfight with Carney. And what I love about Carney is like Cool Hand Luke. He doesn't raise his voice. He's very stoic, comes across very intellectual, very intelligent. He's like Norm from Cheers. When he walks into the World Economic Forum, they're like, Norm, because probably Carney's been going to these things, these European things, for years and years and years. He's a known, safe, stable, a person we can reason with option for the international community. It's good for them to get Carney. The question is it good for Canadians to get Carney?
Just
isn't that the
Poilievre is 45 years old. 45.
Okay, thank you.
But isn't that the calming effect that
Harper had when financial, I think it was a 2008 crash that he kind of led Canada through. And I would say Canada did quite well with being labeled as a stable country as the world went like really bad. So now Carney has that same aura. Polyev does not. So if we're talking about rebuilding Canada and needing a steady hand, that's where you're right, Wayne. The choices that the Conservative Party had, Polyev's like fifth, if he's fifth. So the ones that they actually wanted to be in this position with the steady hand to show the real conservative it's like a conservative bravado. It's like the Liberals overspend, the NDP are just completely off the cliff with spending, but the Conservatives can right the ship and say like, hey, this is what we need to do to get back balance, show the world that Canada is a steady hand, a safe place to put investments. That's why I say Poilievre is staring at his worst enemy in Carney because he exudes that more than he does. So it's hard to demonize him because Poilievre is supposed to be giving that bravado of what the Conservatives typically can do, and he's not that guy. So it's really all about the change from Liberal because it's been too long and there needs to be a reset. And Poilievre happened to be because if they want to change and they don't like Poilievre, like the next two elections, the Conservatives are in trouble. Like this isn't just about this election. If they don't have a guy that can take over how low the Liberal Party had fallen and can't, like this was supposed to be a layup for the Conservatives. And the rug pull that you said, Wayne, as totally, it shouldn't even be like a race. It was supposed to be just a decimation. The NDP, I feel like, are catching those strays. But if the Conservatives can't slam dunk this layup, because now they might have to do another leadership race. Can that next person get their footing to dethrone Carney? Carney's going to get his footing. It could be two elections again to say that the Conservatives can't really get their act together.
I have to agree with you because let me tell you, this is a right-handed 7-footer on an 8-foot rim, and nobody in front of him, and he missed the layup. All he had to do, Poilievre, is tell us what he was going to do, rather than tell us what Trudeau was not doing for the last 3 years. But it was easy to kick Trudeau because he was down. His wife stepped out, is gone, right? People leaving the party. The SNC thing going on with the three female cabinet members, including Selena, all taking off and saying, "Listen, this guy is, I'll use a Toronto term, a wasteute. They don't want to deal with this guy." And I'm like, well, Trudeau's not that bad. Trudeau's not that bad. I've seen him do his thing in Europe. He went to the Queen's funeral. He represented himself on the global stage, not as an intellectual, but as someone who could be
pragmatic.
Say it again.
Pragmatic
Yeah.
and practical for the job.
Yeah. So he wasn't perfect. He's not his father, which is what people keep comparing him to. He's not his father, but when you put this guy in a suit and you put him in front of a camera and you give him a teleprompter, he didn't embarrass you too many times. All right, and that's all I needed him to do because I knew that he had council of elders behind him, and yes, he's the face of the office, but there's a bunch of liberals in the backbenchers and OGs that he could call. As long as Chrétien was alive, we kind of knew that he would be able to help this guy through any storm, and he was doing it until I think COVID really did him in. If we didn't have COVID, he wouldn't have had to spend all that money to make the deficit. You're talking about a deficit. Listen, that deficit was caused by CEBA loans and CERB and then foreign policy. These are all things that kind of sort of liberals kind of had to do as a liberal. anyone who was in power, who was a liberal, was going to have to do those things over the last 5 years that Trudeau did. I don't think he did anything that was so outlandish. Go ahead, Cesar.
Allow me to just confirm what you just said, because I think it is today or yesterday, Doug Ford actually said the same. He's fiscally conservative, but at the same time, there comes a point you got to look after the people, and as such, there's a prediction of the Ontario government balance going over budget in reason of the tariffs, which also were not expected, just as COVID did. And this speaks further to how Poilievre strategically, as I said, shot himself in the foot, fumbled, etc. We can use so many analogies, so many different names for this, but truly what ends up happening is that if he loses, if he doesn't form government, and worse, if the Liberal get majority, he would have done worse than Andrew Scheer and Erin O'Toole, because neither of them, and I don't think any conservative prior, had a 20 to 30 points lead, to the point that even Trump did talk about him having melted his lead to the sun, in contrast to Trump with the impeachment, with January 6th and everything else that you want, was able, like him or not, to pull an unexpected comeback bigger than the comeback kid, aka Bill Clinton. Like, Dr. Vibe called it straight from the beginning. It is a historic election. Not so much historic because Carney could become prime minister as the first non-elected, etc. No, but because such a lead melted, and I keep saying that what's his name, Poilievre, lacks experience, but the truth is that he does have experience. He was part of the Harper government as a career politician. So he definitely ends up lacking the excuses of what went wrong with your campaign. Like, you talk about the 10 years of Trudeau. You were there before Trudeau. You were there before Trudeau. You were at one time, part of the cabinet of the previous prime minister who was conservative. And my data might be wrong, but I think Harper was there for 9 years.
Yeah, 2008, 2000. Now he took us
Maybe
through
7 years.
2005 to 2014, 15. Yeah, almost 9, 10 years.
9 or
But
10 years.
two mandates as a minority, and his last mandate was majority, and that's when the wheels fell off the bus.
Exactly. So, no, he doesn't get to have an excuse. I don't give him an excuse. It's like if he doesn't win, it's going to be really historic in the wrong sense for him. He'll have to retire. He'll have to resign and retire.
Just to update, Stephen Harper was in power from 2006 to 2015.
Yeah, 9 years.
9 years, yeah.
9 years. But I want to also ask both of you gentlemen, and I've brought up this subject a lot of times, when 45 started talking about the 51st state, do you not feel the Conservative Party had they took a long time to respond? Like Doug Ford, the PC, of Ontario, was the front man, and you weren't hearing anything from Poilievre.
Right, and nor could he when Alberta was saying, hey, I don't care what you do in these other 9 provinces, but leave us and our oil alone. And if he's from out there, he really can't say anything that's going to upset his base in Alberta as it relates to Donald Trump. So he was kind of between a rock and a hard place, because that premier out there has been crystal clear. We will leave Canada before we put tariffs on our oil.
Danielle Smith, yep.
She's crystal clear on that. So he's like, I need my base, but they're threatening our sovereignty. But we have an election. I'm not going to speak first, right? You have to remember Julius Caesar and Brutus, Mark Antony and Brutus, right? Mark Antony said, Brutus, you want to speak first? Speak first. But then Mark Antony spoke last. Friends, Romans, lend me your ears. Poilievre used that same tactic to speak last. He let Carney come up with his point so he can have the counterpoint. He's the opposition, not the prime minister. He's not supposed to respond first.
Gentlemen, anything you continue on? This is really good conversation. And what do we next up? So just taking a look at right now, it's Liberals 82, Conservatives 55. A lot of all the polls have closed in Ontario, so we're beginning to get results in Ontario. So this is where
the rubber meets the road.
This is where the Liberals this is going to decide it for the Liberals how well they do in Ontario. You know, this will decide how well it does. And as I said earlier on, this election it looks more and more decided by the Ontario-Manitoba border.
Yes, from Quebec, from Quebec City to Windsor, determines the prime minister.
Yeah.
What's up, Brian?
I think the Ahmed Hussein, if we're doing the Black Candidates Watch, I think they called his writing that he won his.
Okay.
All right.
He's where? Islington Dixon? Where is he?
Weston Mount Dennis. Weston Mount Dennis. That's Weston Road and Lawrence area. Used to work in that area when I was in the corporate world. So at Young and Potential Fathers, Ujima House. So it's right in that area. That's his writing. Cesar, any thoughts? And people who are watching, just to do a reset, we are doing a Canada Federal Election Watch Party on the Dr. Vibe. So with Cesar Nadima Musa, Wayne Harris, and Ryan Singh, who's at an actual watch party. So Ryan, by the way, what are people feeling like at the watch party?
Yeah, when I was first talking to everyone, so everyone's down here, kind of just checking out as the results come in. But sentiment is it's tight. Like nobody can really give a real feeling. At least that I've heard as I'm talking to people, they're just like, hey, we have to just watch the numbers. Nobody's like super confident, like, yo, this is happening or this is not happening. So it's very okay when the Atlantic ridings close. Okay, let's it's just like those are the numbers. And now that Ontario's closing, they're watching like, hey, these are the numbers. So I'm not seeing like anybody confident one way or the other. It's really down to the West ridings closing. I think they're gonna say whether who takes it.
So let me ask though, are anyone saying, "Oh, good to see you, Pam Ray. Good to see you. Good to see you." Are anyone sharing who they'd want to win?
Oh yeah, there's a couple former Liberals here and very staunch Conservatives that when I talk to the Conservatives, it's all about how did you guys. You remember the Sprite commercial where you get Sprited on the rim going for the dunk? It's like, how did you get Sprited? This was supposed to be a slam dunk for you. So that's kind of the conversation I've been having with them. The Liberals is more like, I think they're still shocked that they were able to build back so much from how far they had fallen poll-wise. So everything's bonus to them, really. Because if you're coming from a state where the Liberals were supposed to be decimated, literal ministers, MPs saying they're not going to run, I'm stepping down, and then it's like a phoenix rising out of the ashes of the sun. It's like everything is bonus.
Yeah.
Right. Well, okay. So unofficially, the Liberals are halfway to getting a majority government.
Yep. 91-64. But let me tell you, whoever is going to deal with the tariffs and not elbows up and all this stuff, hey, we have some things that we have to protect. We have our dairy industry.
Yeah.
We have our wheat industry. We have our oil industry, and we have potash and a few other things that we do. Electricity, right? We want to keep tariffs as close to zero as possible, but we know that if we allow all the American dairy and all the American, they're 10 times bigger. They're gonna crush our farmers, especially when we have all these interprovincial barriers on what we can do. We're not ready to release the hounds and go tariff free. We have to have some things in place to help protect those industries because entire provinces can get wiped out There's a whole bunch of people doing dairy stuff in all these provinces, and they're used to getting their price for milk, their price for cheese, their price for yogurt. And if they don't get those prices, they're out of business. I understand. So we have to protect that. And that's kind of some of the sacred cows that Trump is trying to get access to. But based on everything that I've read, Trump can bring stuff in tariff-free up to a certain threshold. And then once it crosses that threshold, the tariffs are severe, like 300%. But America has never reached that threshold. So yes, there's a threshold. Yes, there's a big tariff, but they've never gotten there, because when I have a choice between, if I'm going to eat cheese, I'm not eating American cheese. I'm eating the Canadian cheese. Or I'm going to eat Italian cheese coming from Italy, has nothing to do with America. Whatever. 2, who's going to allow a plumber in Quebec to drive across to Cornwall and do work and not go to jail? Who's going to allow a carpenter in Manitoba to drive across the border, come into Sault Ste. Marie and do work and not go to jail? The interprovincial recognition of the trades and the ability to have manpower move across all 10 provinces without any barriers and any penalty has to happen. The fact that it's 2025 and we still have to do it, it's insane.
Okay,
that's wild.
I don't know. Before we go any further, so I'm just taking a look. Oh, when it's gone off screen now. No, maybe not. Okay, right now I'm just taking a look. Right now, the swinging seats right now, the Liberals are up plus 17 from the last election currently, and the Conservatives are down 5. But in Quebec, the Liberals are up 14 seats. Bloc Québécois is down 11 seats, and the Conservatives are down 3 seats. Continue.
CTV is making projections already
Of what?
A Liberal minimum of 146 seats, maximum 178. The Conservatives minimum 117, maximum 146. So there is no projection. I mean, 146 maximum for Conservative, 146 minimum for Liberals, basically means there is no projection of the Conservative making the government.
Yeah.
Making a majority government.
Majority government, yeah. Yeah.
No, making a government, period. Like even minority. If and that's from CTV. You know, we can't accuse CTV of being left-leaning, but they project for the Conservative a max of 146, and for the Liberals a minimum of 146.
Yeah, I saw that.
Surprise can happen, but you know,
Liberals are 101 now.
On the last conversation, interestingly, when we were talking about the interprovincial trade, it's very similar to what happens in Africa. So you have many African nations that end up having more trade with European former colonial masters, but also with USA and China than with their own neighbors.
Yes.
This is one of the genius effects of what has been happening in the Sahel region of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, that they have been changing that and they have been boosting the GDP.
Yes.
So, like I was telling my white neighbor who lived in the States, in wanting to make America great again, Donald Trump may have succeeded in unifying the rest of the world, and notably Canada.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. So we've got 80% of our GDP going south of the border. One customer with 80% of our business, and that customer has said, I don't need your business. I can get this from anywhere, but you need me. I don't need you. Therefore, 51st state. Therefore, tariffs. It's going to take us, the way we do business up here, a generation to build the pipeline to get from Alberta to BC and from Alberta to Newfoundland. That pipeline must be built. Whichever government is going to get that pipeline built basically gives Canada another 100 years of sovereignty. Because if the pipeline is not built and the refineries are not built, so we can be self-sufficient to refine our own gas, we're sending our oil to the States to be refined to buy back gas. We're sending our oil all the way to New Brunswick I think the only refinery out east is the Irving refinery, and they refine oil for the entire country of Canada. It doesn't make sense why Alberta doesn't have its own refinery. How does that even make sense?
And when you talked about
Canada was lazy because
right.
Canada
Very
was lazy.
lazy. Very lazy.
But when you talk about that interprovincial, I'm curious why no other provinces realize that, hey, if Alberta's digging up all this oil, maybe one of the other provinces should get good at refining it. Maybe the U.S. strong-armed us. I don't know what deals or whatever happened back in the day, but for it not for wasn't there one that Shell won by
we had refineries.
Keel? Okay, yeah, I thought I remember
had
driving by one. Maybe it's gone now.
Yeah, all I know is it made economic sense to somebody at some point in time, depending on who might have been in power at the time. Those are very, very high skilled unionized jobs, right? And if you were the government in power at the time that needed to be done, maybe you say, listen, I want to refine the oil, but I don't want to pay these people what they're worth. So I'll rather outsource this to the states to keep people on their heels economically, rather than, because the more the populace is in debt, the more the populace is afraid of even having a job, the more control that the employer and the government has over the populace. They become more compliant, right? So a few years ago, for every dollar a Canadian made, they were $1.61 in debt. Today, that number is over $1.82 for every dollar in debt. When you have $1.82 going out and $1 coming in, you get real compliant. You start looking to your government for help, right? So the people don't know what they don't know. They're unconsciously incompetent. And we've told, Dr. Vibe has told people, come on here, that we send them the stuff to read. And in the end, I'm still hearing people today, I don't know who to vote for. What? What are you talking about? Hey, you know what? Capital gains at 50%. Okay. Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? It's what it was. Capital gains at 66%. Hey, no bueno. No bueno. You take away every incentive I have as a citizen to try to make some money and leave a legacy for my family. Think about those people who bought 3 and 4 and 5 houses when they were cheap. When condos down at Yonge Street were $200,000, and they bought 4 or 5 of those bad boys. If that person passes away, they pay capital gain on every one of those properties.
My friends, forgive me to interrupt.
124.
CTV has already declared the Liberal win.
What?
Wow. Yes.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it just happened.
Get out of here!
Yeah.
It just happened.
What?
The question is, the numbers are serious.
Oh my. Okay, just to catch up on comments.
Wow.
Dr. Tachi says, wow. Jerry Freckleton says, hello, Dr. Vibe. Did you know the Green Party has a biracial co-leader? Yes, I do. Mignon Camp says the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule, suggests that approximately 80% of the effects of a situation come from 20% of the causes. And she also says debt equals the slave is borrowed to the lender. They're already calling it already.
Yep.
Already.
At 10:09.
With a 40 points difference between the Liberals and the Conservative, and we know them counting in Ontario. I have to agree. Now, the question is, will it be a majority? But in terms of, I mean, it's huge. It's huge.
It tells me that critical thinking is lost on the populace. I'm not anti-liberal. I'm not anti-conservative. I'm anti-foolishness. Right? I'm anti pay too much taxes for no reason. And I every country, and you maybe fact check me. Every country worth its salt, other than the United States and Canada, has a bullet train. High-speed rail. We have the largest land mass in North America. how come I can't get to Vancouver on train in 8 hours? How come I can't get to Quebec City in 2 hours? Why am I going to Pearson, the most expensive airport on the planet? Fact check me on that, but that's what I last heard. It's the most expensive airport in the world, Pearson. If VIA had a train to get me to Montreal Express, I could expand. People having to hug the CN Tower to live, I could expand out. I could go to Barrie. I could go to Windsor. I could go to Kingston and still be in downtown Toronto for a 9 o'clock shift, because I'm flying on a bullet train to Kingston, and it takes me 90 minutes to get to work, the same as it would take me on the GO train, stopping at every stop between Oshawa and Union. But I get on that train in Kingston, and it has one stop. The stop is downtown Toronto, and 90 minutes I'm there. Everyone would move out there and take the pressure off the GTA, and you would expand and you would build a house because I know I can get downtown when I need to. So if we're going to be liberal for another, if he gets a minority, could be 18 months. The question I ask you, gentlemen, is Poilievre still the guy to lead the Conservatives if the Liberals win a minority government?
Even if it's a minority government, I mean, they've had a minority government before, and the Conservative leader had to go. He cannot stay. There's no justification for him to stay when the other two basically resigned.
Yeah.
It's a good question, Wade. Mignon Cam says, yes, the same way Ontario election, they predicted faster because of the pattern of the votes. They still need to add in mail-in votes and who is still in line to vote, but they have a good indicator based on the computer system of the votes. And they need to buy plans from Japan for that express rapid train. Yeah, but didn't Trudeau, before he left, said there's going to be a rapid train between, said Windsor and Quebec City?
Quebec City.
And New York.
And New York.
They promise that every 4 to 8 years, Dr. Vibe.
Okay. Minimum. Before the people come out and say, listen, over here there's a piece of grass that has to be preserved because the dodo bird comes there once every 10 years to hatch eggs, and we can't build the tracks.
Just interrupt. So I'm just taking a look at CTV now, and they're looking at the national popular vote change. Liberals are up 10%, Conservatives up 7%, no change in the Bloc Québécois, NDP down 11%.
Yep.
And the Green,
and that's the fear for the Conservatives, is that they aren't changing people's minds. The Liberal vote was parked at the NDP, and now that the Liberal seems back on track, those votes are just shifting back over. The Conservatives have a very strong base, so they almost, like, the NDP gaining traction was good for the Conservatives, but then it totally flipped. Like, Trudeau was forcing more votes to go away from the Liberals to the NDP, and now Jagmeet Singh sprited as well, blocked by the rim, can't make any momentum, and then people feel like, okay, you're not going to change a person that voted NDP to change to vote Conservative. So those parked votes have now gone back to the Liberals, and like you said, Cesar, like, who is a person that can lead the Conservatives past this foundation of the NDP and the Liberals? Because those votes are just going to go back and forth. They have to inspire the minds of Canadians. Like, I know you're saying, Wayne, like, are people even thinking straight? Are they just looking at common sense? People are looking like, what do they call it? One hand in a word in the hand is better than one in the bush, or two in the bush. The Liberals have some sort of comfort that they feel, okay, I'm going to get what we've gotten from this party. The Conservative is a complete gamble based on others that haven't voted Conservative to vote Conservative, because there's no promises there. It's really to say, like, yo, trust us. We know what we're doing. If you put us in power and make a change, life will be better. It takes a lot to trust that.
We saw this movie before, just 2 months ago, when Bonnie Crombie went up against Doug Ford, and it was devil you know versus devil you don't know. And Doug Ford
Absolutely.
won that thing in a landslide because people are like, hey, Bonnie's capable. But Bonnie, we don't have time for a ramp up. We're going to war now. We're going to war now, Bonnie, and you're not ready yet. We don't need you 6 months to figure out what's behind the curtain. We don't have time. Carney is getting the same level of grace that Doug Ford got. They say, listen, you may not be the best guy. You know, your French is a 6 on 10, and your English is a 8 on 10. Because to be honest, Carney's ability to inspire with his oratorical skill is not there, right? Even when he tries to speak with
Very
passion,
true. Yes, it's a total swing and a miss. Yes,
right. So, but people are saying, listen, the machinery for the Liberals is already built. The government is already there. We don't have time for Poilievre to learn on the job against the biggest threat to Canada since World War II. That's the reason.
That's a good point, Wayne. That's a good point, Wayne. That's a very good point.
We don't have time. Hey, we love you, bro. And if Trump didn't do what he did, chances are you would get a chance because we weren't under a clear and present danger. But with Trump doing his thing and all the machinery in Canada not working the way it's supposed to work, trust me, the level of patience with Carney, especially if it's a minority government, which I hope it is, if he wins, I want it to be minority, because if it's minority and he does not take care of that pipeline, he does not take care of Trump, he does not do what needs to be done to get Canada off the 80% dependency on the United States. I'm not saying he's got to get to zero. This is impossible. But that number needs to move towards 50 in the next 10 years, and then below 50 in the next 10, in order for Canada to have true sovereignty. I just don't know if there's enough time, because I don't know how old Carney is, but a lot of these Liberals are in their 50s and 60s, and Trump is almost in his 80s, and he only has 3 years and 10 months to cook. And then he's done. And he doesn't even have that much time because
the midterms.
Yeah, so he's got 2 years to ram policy through with the executive orders and go from there.
But that's where it's interesting, because if the pressure on the Canadian economy was only coming from internal, what was done over the past 10 years has now caused X. And we only can fix it because if we leave the same people to fix it, that's the definition of insanity. But when the pressure on our economy is coming from external, that just totally, the Conservatives weren't able to craft a message around external pressures that is not the Liberals' fault. It's like, so.
All right.
Yeah.
I just want to interrupt quickly. A few comments. Greeting Frequency Event Promotions. It says, tuning in now. Do we have a winner? Well, they're predicting there will at least be a Liberal government. They'll win the election. The question is, will it be a majority or minority? Good evening. Roger Dundas says, good night, all. And Mark Carney is 60 years old.
Okay. Listen, I like the vision of a big table somewhere in the United States. Maybe it's Mar-a-Lago, maybe it's Camp David, maybe it's the White House. Carney and his people on one side of the table, Trump and his people on the other side of the table, and they're gonna battle to see what we can do to be the best friends in the world, these two countries. Okay? Trump had to do what he had to do to make sure the guy he wanted in the seat would be in the seat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Trump got what he wanted. He wanted to go up against Carney, so he's going up against Carney. That's what he wanted, because he dashed away Poilievre a couple of weeks ago with some comments saying, "Yeah, that guy there, he said some things about me and blah blah blah," and that was it. If the guy who is mini Trump in Canada is not endorsed by Trump, where are you going, bro? Where are you going with that? So if this is true, we're at 138. We need to be at 174. If it's true that the Liberals win a majority,
Mhm.
and we let Carney, with his big brain and his 2 governorships of the Bank of Canada, and all the Liberals behind him, including Trudeau, telling him, "Hey, this is how you handle this guy in the States," and he goes on there and handles it, buddy. Let the good times roll for Canada, because the economy, for what I do for a living, the phone calls, the emails that I'm getting as people's livelihoods get decimated by the volatility. Listen, this we weren't supposed to see this kind of crazy for another 4 years. Every 10 years, 2020, 2008, 12 years, 2000, 8 years, right? 1990, Bob Ray, 10 years. We're supposed to get it every 10 years. This is 5 years, boys and girls, 5. We just came out of this in COVID. Here we are again. Listen, I'm cautiously optimistic that this guy Carney has what it takes to go down there and deal with the Americans in a way that doesn't destroy what little economy we have. The lowest, second to last growth in the G20, Canada.
But brother, allow me. The problem is this. I agree with you on being cautiously optimistic regarding Carney. The problem is, what did Poilievre had to give hope that he could do the job when he technically didn't have that experience compared to another guy who has been the governor of the Bank of Canada during the 2008 financial crisis? And let us not forget, Canada came out much better during that crisis, notably due to banking regulations compared to the US. The famous American dream that people love to talk about in terms of, you can become rich and famous in the United States. Look at Arnold, look at the other one, Rocky Johnson, look at Barack Obama. They elevate the exceptions as if they are the norm, when the reality is 1/3 to 1/4 of American children live under the poverty line and sleep hungry.
Yep.
That is the reality they don't show when they talk about the American dream. On the flip side, and also Mark Carney was the governor of the Bank of England during the 2016 Brexit, which at first had people basically lambasting against Brexit. But look at England. England has come out pretty good in relation to the rest of the EU. The British pound is stronger than the euro. And now, and I'm not saying this in terms of defending Carney, the problem is the alternative, Poilievre, literally, and I'm just repeating what I said earlier, shot himself in the foot as his strategy was solely focused on Trudeau, and he was either unable or unwilling, but I bet unwilling, to adjust to the new reality called Carney. And I can give him a pass on this, Donald Trump. However, Trump had been talking about tariffs since last year, but truly since the last 40 years.
He was talking about it throughout his campaign, right? So that's not a big surprise.
Something
The
to check
difference
on.
is that he applied the tariffs on every nation.
Okay, just stop before you jump in, Ryan. I just want to catch up on comments. Roger Dunda says, I guess, Wayne, you were wrong this morning. I don't know what there's about. Minion Cam says, you lose your investments when you get off the roller coaster. And then the Wallamala, we talked about this lady earlier, Danielle Smith, the premier of Alberta, said, kind of ruined their campaign. Go ahead, Brian.
I'm just curious. So NDP, what is the minimum they have to get to be a party? I know they'll get a bump in BC. 6, eh? Because what are they at? Like 7?
6. There are 6 that they need 8.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah,
Somebody, yeah.
All right, so So what is then, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday on Black Canada Talking, if things go as they are, what's the future Jagmeet Singh?
He's done.
You
He's
have
done
to
like this.
resign.
He's done like disco. He's done like disco. He has his pension though, so he can go. He's all right. But yeah,
Cesar? Go ahead, Wayne. Sorry.
Look,
no, I'm good.
no, look, I'm going to play the EDI card here. And I say this with much sympathy to the Sikh community that has supported my organization since the very start. But I do recall that when Jagmeet Singh came to the scene, there was conversation, notably among Sikh people, regarding whether or not he should keep his turban on in terms of his image and his marketability to the wider Canadian audience. I don't know if you all remember the time of that conversation. Jagmeet Singh, I'm not saying that he would think of maybe he shouldn't have been, so openly expressing his religious and cultural affiliation while also claiming to promote, this lay Canada, where the state comes before any religion and culture. But he was caught up by the events and the times that we live in which identity, culture, all these elements are coming to the forefront, notably in the return of a Donald Trump. As I said, and I've repeated, Canada is not ready to elect a brown man, turban on, who is the leader of a third party. Jagmeet Singh, leader of the Conservative or Liberals, maybe. Jagmeet Singh, leader of the NDP, he has done the most he could, and he should be applauded for the coalition he had with the last Trudeau government that brought forth notably the advanced dental care, etc., which greatly impact Black people. But he has peaked. He will not be able to do more. Jack Layton, the tragedy of the NDP, I do not know how long it will take them to
And
an early passing of Jack Layton. Please go ahead, brother.
yeah, I think there was a lost opportunity for Jagmeet Singh to really solidify what the NDP is. When I would say I agreed. These are the wins that he got when he formed the coalition, because now those are what the NDP kind of became known for. It's like, okay, we want to get everybody pharmacare, we want to get everybody dental care, and we were joking about this on the show earlier on the Morning Vibe with the Green Party. It's like when you beat your chest, you're lecturing everybody, you're saying like this is what we're for, and then all of a sudden everybody agrees. It's like, what role do you play? It's like the NDP had their chance, they made the deal, we agreed, those things got done. Now in this campaign, I have no idea what the NDP was running on. There's no specific foundation that I could point to and say, you know what? Every time I think of NDP, I think of this. I think of the things that are already in place. So he didn't really distance himself as a potential prime minister of Canada. I don't know if the NDP ever can unless they really create that foundation for themselves and say, this is what we stand for and this is why it's a better direction for Canada to go in. Right now, they're kind of just going with the wind.
Yeah.
And the wind has stopped blowing. They only have like 6 seats. This is nuts.
Labor is what the NDP represent, and labor is being replaced by robots and globalization and just companies not wanting to invest in the human capital. So there used to be a time when you go to a company and get trained up and stay for a few years and do these sort of things. We're now living in the transaction, and it's been this way for a while. People still haven't come to that conclusion, but that doesn't mean that it's not a reality. Innovation and advancements come with less labor and more tools and technology, where the robots are running the warehouse. And as soon as we get painted lines on the roads that are clear and the lanes aren't changing, and we can figure out how to deal with snow, this new technology is not really new, but it's new in terms of North America, the self-driving car. That don't have any snow and whatnot, and they can just drive, those trucks can drive themselves. In Canada, if we didn't have inclement weather, these trucks would be able to drive themselves, and that is the whole base of the NDP, labor, and labor is going this way, not this way.
The NDP will have to reframe itself, and I can see its hope coming in the person of Connie Chung, the current mayor of Toronto, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
Is it Connie Chung? Did I get that right?
No. What's her name?
Olivia Chow.
Olivia Chow.
Olivia Chow.
Yes.
Oh, who's Connie Chung again?
She used to be a broadcaster on
journalist.
CBS long time ago.
Yes.
Actually, she's actually married to Maury Povich.
I apologize to the
Ah,
Asian
gotcha.
community. All Asians don't look alike. I'm black, okay? I'm not racist. I'm black.
Good save, Cesar. Good save. Well done. Well done.
But yeah, no, I see the hope of the NDP. They have to
Oh.
hope that Olivia Chow has a good mayorship of Toronto and can jump into federal politics.
Very
She
interesting.
she can bring the nostalgia of Jack Layton. She can bring a successful mayorship.
I'm not feeling that. I'm not.
That's
Only because it'll be difficult for her to win Toronto again.
Exactly.
I think. So that's where what is the next move, right? So I could see it. And listen, they're going to be looking for a leader. So yeah,
And it's a good time in Canadian federal politics to have a woman. There's no woman on that stage.
But as Wayne said, she doesn't have the French.
I assure you. Listen, Francophone people, look at before it gets voted also. It is not enough to just think of the Francophone aspect as if it's going to eliminate someone. Come with something credible and concrete. Look at the Liberals. They've made gains in Quebec. Right,
I'm actually shocked. The Bloc,
6 out of 10. No, it's not even 5.
Did the Bloc underperform as well? It doesn't seem they kept pace.
Yeah.
Weren't they at about 36 before?
So far, like the last stat I got, their vote has gone down.
Gotcha.
Their seats have gone down. So right now they're saying the Liberals have 150, Conservatives 127, Bloc kept, well, it's now 128 Conservative. So now the key thing for the Liberals, if they get a majority, it all comes down to BC.
Like literally, we are still in Ontario, and the Liberals already have 150 to 152, which means the Bloc has lost seats in Quebec. Because that's huge. We are still in Ontario. I mean, you have BC, they get 2, 3, like, it's like, I mean, the Conservative can go up, but the Liberals are closer to the finish line.
There's 40 seats left, 40 seats to go. We're 306 of 343, and they're at 151. They need 19 more. They'll get it.
Well, we'll see. So wait, okay. Roger says, I think it was always a 2-horse race.
Mhm.
Mignon Camp says there are nowhere fulfilling Canada's Disability Inclusion Action Plan 20. It was a nice document to look at, but no weight in it. And then Mignon Camp says she only needs to do a few lessons on Duolingo and learn her French. I think she'll need to. I think.
Sure. Yeah.
I can verify that is false. Duolingo cannot get you that caught up.
False.
You need a Rosetta Stone or something, like legit.
As a brother who has taught French and English, I will tell you something quite cliche. the easiest way to learn a new language is through love, because it gives you that motivation to learn. And I am sure there's more than one black francophone brother out there who would be willing to teach Mrs. Chow the beauty of the French language.
Oh, wait, hold on. So you're saying when you love your student, they learn faster?
Well, I mean, if you love that particular student, you know. And
Yes. Now I know what I've been missing.
So Ryan, will you be the big spoon or the small spoon with Cesar when you're
no,
teaching your French?
no, I love my wife.
I
I'm
need to
good.
find a proper teacher. That's the problem.
What is it? As our brother Dr. Umar Johnson said, black queens only over here. From dark skin to mix, to you name it, whichever you want. You know, this Pan-Africanist brother is skipping his, I mean, I was going to say he's coffee black, but I never had coffee, but you know what I mean.
Now this conversation is devolving.
Yes. And my apologies. I have to head back home.
Yeah.
But good seeing everybody. I'll still be listening. But
No problem.
I'll
All right,
see you soon.
Drive careful. Take care. Thanks for stopping by.
All right.
I'm late for my 10:30 as well, but listen, this has been amazing. I'm sorry I came in late, but man, it's been fire. Listen, Roger, I was wrong. I thought Canada was so upset with the way the train was going off the tracks that they were going to put a new train on new tracks. And Canada has decided to say, nope, the conductor, we've changed, but the train is a good train. We're going to continue this train down these same tracks. Well, guess what? This show will be played for decades to come on some medium somewhere, and we will see if Canada made the right decision tonight or not. Because within the next 24 months, before the midterm election in the United States, tariffs need to be resolved, interprovincial trade needs to be resolved, pipelines need to be shovels in the ground, and housing prices need to be fair again in Canada. And someone who is 25, 26, who has $50,000 or $100,000 should be able to afford a home in the GTA. And if those things can get done in the next 4 years, it's a win for the Liberals, it's a win for Carney, it's a win for Canada. I'm down with that because selfishly, I want everybody who has kids here for them to be able to afford a house somewhere near where their parents live, not in Upper Rubber Boot, Ontario, and you need a helicopter to get there. You should be able to have the extended family within kilometers of each other. This should not be ludicrous. It should be normal. If Cesar has parents and he and his kids have kids, the grandparents should be able to go and see the grandbabies without taking a flight.
Oh, so Wayne, just an interesting comment here by, and I think I know that you haven't heard from a while. He said, Sandusky, Ohio bro says, Black Americans could care less about Canada. To be honest, your all lives don't affect us.
He is correct in his assessment. Most Americans don't have passports and don't know anything about anything beyond their borough and their eyes can see. So he's exactly what the base of Trump is looking for. He's hoping that people are myopic and only worried about their own self-interest without looking at the entire diaspora, and that's okay. I'm not going to dispute that claim there. What I'm going to say is this: it's in our best interest as a smaller country, a smaller economy, to know who the big dog is. And America is the big dog. If you put a gun to the head of a Canadian and say, name 10 American states, we're not getting shot. You ask the same thing, ask an American for 3 Canadian provinces, they're dead. This is an education system thing. It has, and just an attitude thing, because Michael Jordan didn't care about the Charlotte Hornets, right? The Charlotte Hornets had to care about Michael Jordan. So I get what he's saying. I'm in agreement with that.
A few more quick.
But he's actually quite wrong. He's actually quite wrong. And honestly, brother Sandusky from Ohio, you should be embarrassed by your comment. Why? Because you are revealing your socioeconomic and your education status. Number one tourists to America are Canadians, are American families who are literally suffering financially because of Trump tariffs, because Canadians are not coming there. Number two trading partner of the USA is Canada. Right now, you have American governors who want Trump to end the tariffs so that trade can resume with Canada. This is embarrassing. This is a miseducation, excuse my language, Dr. Vibe, but this is very much what we talk about in terms of the miseducation of the Negro, where a Black person is ignorant, proud of it, and doesn't even realize the extent to which the ignorance make them look bad.
All right.
Make them
I
look
want to
bad.
get some more
But,
content.
and that's why I'm agreeing. That's why I'm agreeing with him, because he represents a large swath of people, Black, white, and otherwise in America, who feel the same way. They don't know
All right.
what they don't know.
More comments. Roger Dundas says housing prices cannot go low, or a lot of people will lose on their investments. Scott Grease says Canada doesn't have 4 years. It's a wrap annexation next. Sandusky, Ohio Bro says, I'm ADOS, not Canadians. Scott Grease says, stop insulting Black Americans. Most are indigenous. Your fathers were the diaspora slaves. Sandusky, Ohio Bros goes, I carry I won't say the word because I may get off wherever I go. Minion Camp says, I think I know based on which ones I have visited for America. I've only been to Ottawa and Quebec. I need to travel to Canada more. Scott Grease says, no one in America is suffering. Okay. And then Minion Cam goes, I have key change for Vegas, Colorado. Okay. That we don't need to read right now. All right. Wayne, anything else you want to add before you jump out? Because you're late for your appointment.
Yeah, listen, I love the conversations from our ADOS friend in America. Thanks for coming on the show and offering your opinion. Your opinion is myopic, and it is, you have allies up here, and we have fought with you shoulder to shoulder for 100+ years, and we should be concerned about the diaspora. I care about what's going on in Burkina Faso, not just what's going on in Baltimore, right? We have to be global in our mindset and stop the I'm not you, you're not me conversation. We are one in the Pan-African diaspora, and we need to know what's going on in Niger, what's going on in Mali, what's going on in Burkina Faso. It matters because it helps raise the identity of the entire diaspora. So we should care. But everyone's opinion, you can have your own opinion. I'm not your, I'm not your guru. Do you. Dr. Vibe, thank you. Cesar, thank you.
We'll see you on Friday morning, Wayne, on your regular. You can catch Wayne first Friday of each month on First Fridays with Wayne Harris. First Financial Fridays, which he's been on for a long time. And I'm sure he'll probably want to talk about the economic impact on Black Canadians of whatever happens tonight. And two last comments before you leave, Wayne. Ryan says, are you seeing that Poilievre is losing in his seat? And Scott,
yes.
Scott Graves says, all skin folk ain't kin folk.
As I was saying earlier.
All right. Wayne, have a good night. Sorry to delay you from your appointment.
Bye.
Be well. All right. So Cesar, it's back to where it started. It's you and I. So it's basically now we're just seeing if there's going to be a majority government. Well, see, now the Conservatives have caught up because it's now 156 to 134. So there's been some catching up, of expectedly so because of going into the West now. But if the Liberals, as these media sources, are going to win, they have to say they did very well in Ontario. Probably took some seats in Ontario and Quebec.
It's still it's still 156. It's still a Liberal win. The question is, will it be a majority? But as we're moving further in the West, the problem is the likeliness of the Liberals not getting what they need 16 now. Oh, sorry, 158. So they need 14. Yeah, NDP has made official status. They're now at 9.
The question is, I guess the big question will be now is how many seats can the Liberals take from the NDP in BC?
And then even if, look, let's be honest. Let's say even if the Liberals don't get any more seats right now, and it's a minority government, if Poilievre doesn't win his own seats, my gosh, the humiliation.
Well,
The-
see, now it's closing up now because Liberals at 159, Conservatives at 133. So I don't think this is over yet. But
Oh,
they're projecting a Liberal government.
yes, yes, yes. But that's what I'm saying. But even if it is a minority government, if Poilievre and please, Dr. Vibe, I know you don't live in Ottawa, but let me tell you, look at the number for where Poilievre is. It's not a largely populated area. So it's not as if there's like missing 10,000 votes to count here. And it's 1046. It's a rural
Yeah,
area.
he is. He is. I'm seeing it right now. He's behind in his own. But it's only one poll out. It's only one poll out of 266 reporting, so it's really early.
But Dr. Vibe, it's a rural area. There's no like 100,000 or 50,000 votes missing here. Like this is I've lived in this area. I've lived where Pierre Poilievre is the MP. It's largely rural. There are no you don't really get to see apartment buildings there. It's very interesting. Very interesting.
So now it's increased again, 160 to 132. So it's a 28 vote.
But are you noticing how it's increasing for the Liberals? But
Yeah,
it's
they're
diminishing for the Conservatives.
they're getting closer to a majority
They're
government.
getting very closer.
Yeah, they're getting close to it. They're getting close to getting that majority. That is, I think right now there's 159. Two questions right now. Can the Liberals get a majority? And will Mr. Poilievre and Mr. Singh win their seats? But again, the Poilievre was really early in the reporting, but that, and as you said, and we said earlier on this week, last weekend, or was it the weekend before, the PEC party was putting manpower in Mr. Poilievre's writing.
And yet, when it comes to politics, when the leader of a party, it's not even that they don't succeed in getting reelected. If the leader of a party, and this is the official party that has already ruled over Canada, is struggling to be reelected after having been so many times elected for the last 20 plus years, 21 years, that is problematic. That
Okay.
speaks heavily on the party and the leadership of the party to be addressed.
All right. So Ryan is saying while he's traveling,
Yes,
he's saying
yes,
they really have so he's saying the Liberals, they really have to get within 9 and then de facto majority with NDP support. So there you go. So that is what I'm saying, that I didn't know if the Conservatives could get a majority government. For them to have won, they would have to get a majority government, because I don't see the NDP supporting Conservative. I don't think that's happened in many years, if at all. So, so the Liberals definitely, that prognostication of they're going to win. So Liberals now are at 160, Conservatives at 135. So I have a feeling this won't be totally resolved for a while, but I would say probably within the next half an hour, half an hour to hour, and I don't know if we're going to stay on for that long of a time, that the Liberals are just seeing, can they steal votes from the NDP in British Columbia? If they do that, then they've got the majority government. They've got the majority government. And again, the polls don't close there for at least, I think they call at least for another 10 minutes. Let me just see. They're not even talking about when the polls are going to close in BC, but it's got to be fairly soon. Like we're coming up to the 11 o'clock hour Eastern time, which would be 8 p.m. in BC. So this is interesting. What is going on? Cesar, What do you think so far? Any other comments you have to make at this time? And anyone watching live, please feel free to make the comments. It's been a very interesting night, and there's a lot of
Interesting.
very again. I don't. Let me ask Cesar, have you ever paid so much attention to a Canadian election in a while?
In a while, I must unfortunately say no. But I would almost say the last time a Canadian election was this interesting was 10 years ago. Stephen Harper.
Yeah.
Stephen Harper. Yeah, no. But no, very interesting and indeed historic. I mean,
This is
I'm saying to be corrected because I was not thinking of a.
I just want to go ahead here. Now, Liberals winning and leading in 164 seats.
Wow.
What is happening here is we are now basically getting to a country that's a two-party country. The NDP has lost a lot. And it's just seeing that a lot of people, if they're changing their vote, are changing it from NDP to Liberal and middle of Conservative to Liberal. So people are going to the Liberals if they're changing their vote. It's very interesting, but it's still somewhat of a close race because it's only a 24-seat difference between the two main parties. It's only 24 seats, so it's still close. It's still close, but it does not look like the Conservatives will be in government. They will not be in power.
It's
All right.
close enough to make it interesting, but the Liberals now only need 10 seats. 162 they are at.
Yeah, and again, this is not including the ridings in British Columbia, right?
Yeah.
This is not including the ridings in British Columbia. That, and in a good way, though, a lot of times in the past, people in the West would say, hey, well, by the time the polls close in Ontario, the election's over. Not this time. It's somewhat over that it sounds like it's going to be a Liberal government, but it's not over in regards, is it a majority or not? So BC is going to count.
BC is going to count. Because those NDP vote in BC, when NDP vote swing, they swing left, they swing Liberal. They don't tend to swing to the right.
They don't swing to the right. And if the Liberals are able to do that, they may have a very good feeling saying, okay, we did well in the Atlantic. We did well in Quebec. We did well in Ontario. The Prairie provinces, but we were able to get some of the West vote from BC. And it'll probably be as close as, and people may correct me if I'm wrong, but probably as close as the Liberals have had to call themselves a national party in a long time.
And allow me to go further. Even if the Conservative win so many seats in central Canada, the question will be kind of as the latest elections, by-elections that happen, such as in Florida, the margin gap between the previous elections and right now, as it is getting closer and closer. And we cannot deny, I mean, I kind of hate to say this, but Orange Man might be, I think we can say, the most influential politician of the last 10 years, impacting elections even outside of his country.
Well, he always wanted to be known as a great historic figure. He's doing it, not only in his own country, but globally. Whether it's good or bad, that's a whole other conversation. But his impact globally is large. But I'm just taking care a lot of Liberal wins in especially the Greater Toronto area. A lot of Liberal victories. A number of Liberal victories in the Greater Toronto area. So right now it's a 20 seat difference with 336 out of 343 polls reporting right now. So now they're calling it they're predicting a liberal minority government. So CTV has just declared a liberal minority government.
Yeah.
That's what they're calling it, a liberal but again, these numbers are like they're going back and forth, right? There's right now it's liberals 158, conservatives 142. So it's still going back and forth. So it does. So the news sources are saying, you know what? It may not. And look, it's even getting closer now. It's 157 to 144. So it's even getting, so this is not over yet.
They're in the West, but you see, this is the thing though. The NDP votes that will come from BC.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the BC. So this is the thing that it's almost like once you hit the Alberta BC border, it stops for the PCs. It stops. So, just how it stopped at the Ontario Manitoba border for the Liberals.
Yeah.
And the flow came back to the PC. Then now the question is, can the PCs? So right now it's prime time for the PCs. They got to get while they can get while they get it, because it doesn't look like they're probably going to get anything from British Columbia. So if for them to close the gap, they got to do it right now. Right now, they got to close the gap right now, because if they don't do that, I don't see BC changing. And this is why I think definitely I can see now why the news service is saying it's going to be a liberal minority government. Now, here's the question, though, Cesar. Does Jagmeet Singh still stay in power?
No, you have to resign.
But who's going to negotiate? Like, do you think he'll still stay around? Because, hey, they're going to have a lot of weight in regards to that government.
Yeah, but it's not going to be any different from what they had before. He can't bring. I mean, what is he? I mean, how can I put it? The problem is that he turned his coat on the Liberals in the context of the impopularity of Trudeau before Trudeau resigned due to Chrystia Freeland backstabbing, and then Trump and the tariffs. He becomes untrustworthy in the new coalition to side with the Liberals. He basically himself will be shooting himself in the foot, coming off as a hypocrite. I mean, it's politics, absolutely. But character still matters. Character still matters, and people don't forget easily. And all of this is recorded. I don't think Jagmeet can stay, considering that he won't be able to deliver more than what he already has, which was great. He played his third wheel position effectively for the NDP. But with less seats, what more can he bring?
Okay, so Roger Dundas says Kamel Kara is currently losing her seat. So a number of Black Canadians may know that name. Kamel Kara, up until recently, was minister. Well, she was a cabinet minister that was responsible for Black Canadians, minorities, etc. And then when Mr. Carney came in, that cabinet post got dissolved, and then I think she picked up, she was reassigned with a different cabinet post, but she is losing her seat right now, which is very, very interesting in regards to, and she's in the Brampton area of the Greater Toronto area. Things are, as I said, lots of things still going down. Like it said, one news source saying liberal government. They're not saying whether it's a majority or minority. Another news source that I'm looking at is saying a liberal minority. And again, so interesting. Former housing minister Sean Fraser reelected, the gentleman who quit because Trudeau was still going and came back, is now back in. He's now back in. So there's only 7 ridings that still haven't reported yet. And basically, and Sean Fraser just won. He only won by about 1,300 votes, or he's ahead by 1,300 votes. So it looks like he's going to do okay. But so we're see, and it's close again. Liberal mind like 156 to 144. Close again. But it doesn't look like, it doesn't look like the conservatives will be able to take, they had, and that's a challenge for the conservatives, that they have to win a majority. They have to win a majority. That's the only way that they can win.
The numbers and the map are not favoring them to catch up.
No, like Karina Gould has won, is winning. But look at this. Michael Couteau, and I mentioned his name in a conversation today. He's ahead right now. This is going to go on for a while. This is going to be very, very interesting to see what goes on. I think we'll stay on for maybe another half an hour maximum in regards to this, because I think we'll have a little bit more clarity. Oh, so Mignon Cam is obviously an auto fan. She says, Kamal Kara did awful to Canadians with disabilities. I know that Mignon Cam, who used to be on monthly on the Morning Vibe that I co-host with Ryan and co-produce with Ryan, she is not a fan of Kamal Kara. Not a fan. And I have a feeling if Miss Kara lost, Minnie would not be disappointed. I'm suggesting she won't be disappointed in regards to that. Mr.
Leslie Lewis got reelected comfortably.
Who?
Leslie Lewis. She got reelected comfortably.
So right now the spread is. So I'm taking a look at one of the services. Yeah. So this is well, I can't turn it on, but just interesting to see how the map is showing right now. So it's a 20 seat spread right now for the Liberals. It does not look like they're going to get their majority government, but they have to be happy coming from where they were 4 or 5 months ago. They've got to be really happy from 4 or 5 months ago. Dude, correct, Cesar?
Oh, the Phoenix is red. The Phoenix is red, and the Phoenix is red because the blue whale that was supposed to dominate the seas, well, it's still a whale, but it's not a dominating whale.
So just taking a look. So the lady that replaced Marcy Ian, she won. I'm so curious about what Marcy Ian's next move is going to be, or is that done for her in federal politics? I'm very interested to see what happens with that. But it looks like things are just going. The spread hasn't come down to 15 or less. It's still. So there we have CTV's occurring liberal minority, and again CBC just saying liberal government. They're not going minority, which I think may be a safe play. You never know. Okay. Roger's saying Mark Abney confirmed for Nepean. I don't know that name. Mignon Camp says, I can never be a fan for someone who passed $200 a month to Canadians with disabilities living in poverty and face housing and food insecurities and difficult life decisions. Okay. Mark Carney. Thank you, Roger. Carney. So Mark Carney won his riding. So there you go. So Mr. Carney has won his riding. We're just now wondering about Mr. Polyev and Mr. Singh. Will they win their ridings? That will be the interesting take. So liberal minority. So it's interesting. So in the 905 belt, which is the greater Toronto area, Brant. Okay, so I'm just waiting to see what they say about the riding that Kamal Kara is in, because I see they got Brampton, Chinguacousy Park, Liberal winning there. I want to know about Kamal Kara. That's okay. Brampton again, Liberal. It's close though. It's close. And Kamal Kara is not winning in her riding right now. You are right, Roger, 48 out of 137 polls. She is behind at that would be a big blow to the Liberal Party if she lost. And again, and also too in Aurora, see, so it's funny in the Greater Toronto Area, there are some Liberals that are either behind or have lost their seats. So there's a bit of seat taking on both sides. So it's still a very close race. And there's another one. Here's another race here in Markham Unionville. Again, that's outside of the Toronto courts. It seems that they're pretty split between probably more leaning progressive conservative rather than liberal. Here's a liberal that got beat in Richmond Hill. Incumbent Liberal gone. He's going to probably be gone. There's still a lot of close races going on in the Greater Toronto Area. A lot of close races going on. All right, so projections here from CTV, they're saying a minimum of 154 seats for the Liberals, maximum of 167. So, and then for the Conservatives, minimum of 130, maximum of 152. So we're not going to have a majority. Looks like from prognosticators, we're not going to have a majority government.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
You know, I'm seeing by the bottom of this hour, we'll call it for the evening. I think that'd be fair. Again, anyone who's still with us, certainly put in your comments. I guess we'll stay to the bottom. I'll just see if there's any interesting races that get declared. A number of Liberals who are somewhat no names are trailing in their ridings. And then by that time, too, BC will start getting BC results. Though the news services are saying minority. But again, it's so close. But again, close is good for the Liberals. It's not good for the Conservatives. That's a challenge for the Conservatives. Conservatives cannot get a majority. And again, you know, we may wake up tomorrow morning and the Conservatives may have won the most seats. So Cesar, I have a question for you. If this campaign lasted another 2 weeks, would we be seeing different results tonight?
The longer the campaign, the better it would have been for the Conservative. That was very, and this cannot be, we have to be careful of making Mark Carney seem as this amazing strategist, etc. But I think there is something that must be recognized about sensing Poilievre failed. He was so myopic, as our brother was saying. He was so myopic in his anti-Trudeau stance that he became unable to adapt. The strength of humans is not just our brain, but it's the capacity to adapt to new situations in order for us to overcome. This is what Carney did. But let's be careful. Even in saying the longer the campaign, the better for the Conservative, there is an external element by the name of Donald Trump.
True. Who's unpredictable. Yes.
Exactly. And when I say this, the longer the campaign, the more impact the tariffs maybe could have been even better for the Liberals.
True.
And remember what I said yesterday, Dr. Vibe. We are now about to enter the month of May. Give it another month to 2 months. End of school, the people will have been laid off. The people will have either lost employment or families that are having to pay more to survive, to provide. Are they willing to take a chance on someone who technically has no experience in trade and commerce as Mr. Poilievre versus someone who comes with a very heavy and solid resume? No matter what we may think of Mr. Carney, it's hard to disagree that a guy who has been a governor of Bank of two Western nations as Canada and England in an economic difficult times that we live in seems like the safest bet, in the same way as if you're picking players for your basketball team for street ball, you're not going to pick me. You're going to pick the guy who's over 6'5". whether or not he knows how to play, but he looks like he knows. He looks like he fits the part.
Okay, so I just want to update here. In Quebec, the Liberals gained 8 seats from the last election.
That's
Now,
huge.
Uh,
Yes.
Now it's gotten close now. It's 155 Liberal, 149 Conservative. Now, here's a question for you. Bloc Québécois, if it's a minority government, who do they support?
Bloc Québécois doesn't care who they support because this is another party that is very myopic. I mean, I've read some interesting conversations about how the Bloc Québécois should not even be a federal party because, truthfully, they only compete in one province. The Bloc Québécois' purpose is the representation of not the province of Quebec per se, but of independentists, aka the federal branch of the Parti Québécois. They pretty much are there to take votes away. So we're talking about the NDP votes going to the Liberal. The Bloc Québécois is basically votes taken away from the Liberals, to be quite honest. That's what it is. So, you know, they have no aspirations.
They've lost a number. The Bloc has lost a number of seats to the Liberals in Quebec.
And that's a lot. That's a lot in one province to lose 9 seats out of, I think Quebec gives, in the Commonwealth of Canada, Quebec gives 78 seats, if I'm not mistaken. But if I am not mistaken, a premier such as Daniel Smith, who loves to brandish being anti-federal Canada, not just the perequation in terms of the distribution of money from the federal to the provinces, but also addressing the distribution of House seats in relation to the provinces. It is still an equation based on population, but we cannot deny the weight of Alberta has been increasing since the founding of Canada as a Western nation in 1867.
Yeah. Mignon Camp says food banks are already burned out from
Yes.
serving more Canadians than ever before. If the unemployment increases, they will not survive as they are past unsustainable. Very true. Very, very true. Do
Really
not
true. Yeah.
that is Mr. Carney has got a lot on his plate that he has to deal with. A lot on his plate he's gonna have to deal with. This is really, and now, yeah, the numbers just, so right now the share of the vote, they say Liberals 43.3%, Conservatives 41%. So what a lot of the media was saying is that the gap closed over the last week or two. It closed. And the question was, would it close enough to push the Conservatives ahead of the Liberals? It looks like it's closed, but it hasn't closed enough.
It is closed. It is close, but again, we're not even in BC yet. So just like you were saying, in central Canada, this is where the Conservatives, they have to maximize the gains they can have, because although it's not impossible, I mean, we look at the news stations, they're pretty much all calling for a Liberal minority.
Okay, so the popular vote, Liberals 43.3%, Conservatives 41.3%, Bloc Québécois 8.1%, and the NDP 5.1%. So popular vote is pretty close. And did you say it earlier on? You had a friend that said that the poll, the surveys are pretty accurate in Canada.
Indeed.
Your friend is showing that he's pretty on with that. That is what a lot of people were saying. In a lot of the media are saying, it's tightened up. They still see a little bit of a Liberal lead, but it did certainly tighten up over the last 2 weeks.
Which is also confirming what I was saying in terms of had a hard time seeing a Liberal majority but a liberal minority. But then, as Ryan did mention, by de facto, the NDP votes in the parliament session would be going towards a
Oh, yeah.
liberal majority in order to keep pushing the NDP agenda.
And well, that's going to be
Which is the
interesting.
best they can do.
Well, then that's going to be interesting because Carney is more a centralist than the left.
Yes, yes.
Then this brings up
But-
another question: do we
But
see
Canada
another?
is suffering.
Now, here's a
Canada is
question.
going to suffer. Yeah, sorry.
But does this bring up the point I think was mentioned earlier on by Wayne? Do we see another election in the next 18 months to 24 months?
Oh, if it's a minority government, yes. And allow me to add here. So you were asking earlier regarding the Bloc Québécois. The Bloc Québécois is turning out to become the third party.
Yes.
They can play troublemakers by supporting the
Conservatives. Yes.
just for the sake of it, just to cause trouble, because the interest is not regarding the rest of Canada. It's regarding Quebec. And furthermore, with Trump's tariffs, the conversation on energy is becoming even more important. And when we're talking about pipelines, which are not environmental friendly, hydroelectricity has a more favorable view. So we will have an interesting conversation in terms of the Bloc Québécois, what kind of, if I can say, almost kingmaker.
They are the kingmaker. They are the kingmaker. Because let's put it this way right now. Liberals, if everything stood as it was right now, 155, NDP has 10, that's 165 votes. Conservative, 151 plus the Bloc 25 votes, that's 176.
Yes. But there's just one little problem. The Bloc Québécois, as an independentist party, shoots itself in the foot, being seen by independentists in Quebec as becoming aligned to a federal party, which is anti-independence of Quebec. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And basically by doing so, we have to think, when it comes to the Bloc, we have to think federal and provincial. When the Bloc does bad federally or has a bad perception, it's the Parti Québécois that becomes hurt on the provincial election.
It's tightening up, folks. Right now, we're seeing 154 Liberal, 152 Conservative, Bloc 25 NDP. The Bloc Québécois is going to be the kingmaker.
It is, but Dr. Vibe, we haven't reached BC yet.
It's getting there, but it's just very.
No, they are in BC now.
They're in BC now.
It's starting to come. Sorry, yeah.
Well, now the Liberals are beginning to wide up, but it's the Bloc Québécois that's going to be the rainmaker. It's the Bloc Québécois,
despite losing 9 seats.
Yep, they are going
to surprise.
All right, now I'm going to come back to what we said earlier. Poilievre.
He'll have to resign.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No, he'll have to resign. Dr.
Okay,
Vibe.
but hold on.
Conservative parties don't keep their leader if they lose an election. This is across the Western world.
So do you then think either if the Liberals are going to need, if things stay as they are right now, Liberals are going to need NDP and at least some support from the Bloc Québécois, or they're going to need the Bloc Québécois?
Oh, no, they can get that. That's not the problem. That's not the problem. They can get that. They're more likely to get NDP support, but they can indeed get Bloc Québécois support. It's harder for the Conservative to get support from the NDP and from the Bloc.
But what I'm saying, Cesar, is all the Conservatives need is the Bloc. They don't need the NDP.
Yeah, but the Bloc will not align itself so openly to a federal party, which is also an Anglophone party. That the Multicultural Party of Canada, which is multicultural, which is also seen as the bilingual party, is a liberal party. Pretty much the people in Quebec will, and I'm very much generalizing, if they're not voting for Bloc, they're more likely to vote for the Liberal than to vote for the Conservative. Because the Conservative, despite Pierre Poilievre being, he's French. I don't know if I can say that he's Francophone per se, just because of his name, but his French is definitely better than that of Marc Carney, which he belongs to, is seen as the Anglophone party. Meanwhile, the Liberals are seen as the bilingual party. The language aspect here now becomes a strong element, but not because of the leaders, Carney or Poilievre, because of the party association. The Bloc siding openly with the Conservative in order to bring power to the Conservative, which is an anti-independence of Quebec party, they will be hurting the ally of the province, aka the Parti Québécois. That is hard for me to imagine.
A question here from Jerry. Jerry says, as a Francophone, César, is the Bloc Québécois as anti-Black as the Conservatives?
That's an interesting question. I didn't see that one coming. And I say this because had you asked a question regarding the PQ, Parti Québécois, it would have been easier to answer, aka Jacques Parizeau, the 1995 referendum, and his claims that it is, the immigrant vote that made Quebec lose its chance at becoming independent, with, I believe, 49.6 votes for independence versus 50. When it comes to the Bloc Québécois, I must say it is technically harder because there are the independentist party at the federal level, but I will say it is also easy to answer because they literally are the mirror of the PQ. Now, please, nobody gets me wrong. Just as there are Black Republicans, there are Black people also will vote Parti Québécois at the provincial level, just as Bloc Québécois at the federal level. But Parti Québécois, the PQ, just as the Bloc Québécois, the BQ, they are not targeting the Black population of Montreal North, the Haitians and the Africans to come to power. It is not the base. Even right now, as we speak, why does the government of Premier Legault, François Legault, does not recognize systemic racism despite so many reports, so many investigations, notably by white professionals and experts confirming there is systemic racism in Quebec? Why don't they recognize systemic racism? Because the electoral base is overwhelmingly white, rural, and outside of Montreal. Montreal, which is a very diverse city, outside of Montreal, which tends to be very white. So you have the pockets of Montreal and Gatineau area, Ottawa, Gatineau, which is very diverse, and a little bit of diversity in Quebec City, a little bit, I repeat, but the rest, this is why. So the BQ, I wouldn't necessarily say anti-Black, but the Black vote is not a vote that they count on, no, that they require. It's the Liberal Party that gets the Black vote. And it's not to say that the Liberal Party is necessarily friends of Black people, just as the Democrats in the US. But the alternative explains why so often Black people will vote for the center-left party.
This is
again, allow me to add again.
Yeah.
Just like the Conservatives and the Republicans, they'll welcome any Black vote they can get, but they don't target the Black population, which is again why they don't recognize systemic racism, because the recognition of systemic racism would go against the whims, the wishes, and the so-called interest of the electoral base, which is overwhelmingly white, Christian, just as we were talking about, young white men, not just white, but overwhelmingly young white men going conservative. Yeah.
It's just very interesting what's going on. I'm looking on my screen. There's a lot of close races that aren't decided yet. Like again, Kamel Kara, incumbent in Brampton West, losing right now. That would be a big loss for the Liberal Party. We said we'd go off at the bottom of the hour. I'm feeling I want to stay till the top of the hour now. The way things are going, and I know Cesar, you've got family commitments, so I don't want to have you stay any longer than you need to. So
the only black candidate, Jonathan Pedno, leader or the co-leader of the Green Party, has been defeated.
Oh,
He has been defeated.
wow.
So the Green Party leader.
No, hold on. Yeah, defeated. Yeah, it's wow. That's wow. That's oh boy, that is crazy.
And if I'm not mistaken, I don't recall having seen him at the debate, or at least the English debate.
One of the debates, the English debate, there was some mix up the morning of, and they didn't allow the Green Party in that's a whole other conversation in itself, what the kerfuffle that happened with that there. But it's again, the Liberals seem to have Andrew Scheer has been reelected.
Yes.
In Regina. So that is good. It seems the Liberals have got a little bit of breathing room right now. It was getting quite close for a while, but it was getting very tight for a while, and they're beginning to increase their spread a little bit according to projections here. Oh, and Pierre Paul, you know what? Wow.
Right.
Well, it's only 10 out of 266 polls. Mr. Poilievre is behind by over almost 1,400 votes.
Yeah.
But again, that's still early. Only 10 out of the.
Still early.
It's still early. But you're still saying that you don't see him as leader going forward.
No. Dr. Vibe. Look, as I denounce entertainment as the #1 cancer of the black psyche,
yes,
allow me to give an analogy to entertainment. The Oklahoma City Thunder made a comeback of, I believe, 29 points against the Memphis Grizzlies a few days ago, being, I think, the second or third most in NBA history. It has consequences. The first consequence was that the Grizzlies ended up being swept 4-0 out of the NBA playoffs. You can't have a man who put himself so much more forward, so much forward as this, kind of took the mantle of the natural leader, borderline Stephen Harper's political son, and was so laser focused. Look, I'm sorry to say this, but again, I repeat what I said. Pierre Poilievre had a strategic error from the start because he was solely focused on Trudeau. He wasn't even against the Liberal. And as many have mentioned, he was not talking about what he was bringing and offering to Canada. He was, as we saw so many freedom, DUMB truckers and acolytes with the flags F. Trudeau. It was anti-Trudeau. It was not so much anti-Liberal Party, and it was definitely not so much, this is what we are offering for Canada. The change we're offering. The change was literally remove Trudeau. Well, Trudeau removed himself. You didn't remove him, he removed himself. Trudeau must be laughing right now. Trump must be laughing right now too, because it's like, oh, look at how make America great again on the other side of the border. You see, they should become the 51st state. I impacted the elections.
Yeah. Jerry has another question for you. Cesar, is there any difference between Carney and Trudeau in their version of liberalism?
Brother, that's a great question. And Brother Freckleton, sorry, allow me to give you props, because you really do come with great questions. I must tell you that. Now, I am speaking solely my position. My wife actually has a book on Mark Carney. She has his book. I didn't read it, but I would say in the version of liberalism, Trudeau is more in terms of this is interesting because there is a relation to the states. So Trudeau's version of liberalism is more in terms of the social issues, where he's going to be attached to from recognizing the International Decade for People of African Descent, Black History Month, but also LGBTQ, and of course the ladies, the three politician ladies will claim that he was a fake feminist, and of course blackface, brownface, etc. And I mean, people criticize Trudeau regarding the handling of COVID, but what did Trudeau really do differently than others did? Even Trump did as Trudeau, despite being a hypocrite, claiming to be anti-vax, but when he got COVID, he went to get vaccinated. So that's Trudeau more on the social and identity aspect of liberalism. While Carney, and we don't know as much about Carney, is more the economic / central bank aspect of the running of a government by the numbers. Former governor of the Bank of Canada during the financial crisis of 2008. Former governor of the Bank of England during Brexit. And now becoming Prime Minister of Canada at an age in which the Bretton Woods system has come crumbling due to one single man, President Donald Trump, aka Orange Man. This is where we get Carney.
Jerry continues and says, I think Carney is less committed to DEI and will try to pass sly spending cuts that could harm Black community funding.
Yes and no, I would say. Yes, less committed to DEI because he doesn't come from a social issues or whatever background, aka he's not known for that. He's known, as I was saying, for numbers and, hard finances. You see what I mean? The hard power, I should say, of money in regards to the governance of the state. But the spending cuts that could harm the Black community funding, well, first of all, that's not a surprise as a Black activist. But the Liberals do need the Black vote. The Black community may be I can't remember the exact statistic in Canada right now, but it's usually between 3.4 to 4% of the Canadian population. But where is the Black community? The Black community in Canada, I can't remember if it's 80 or 90% of Black people in Canada literally live in a corridor that stretches, and I'm really stretching it, from Quebec City to Windsor. That's where you get your Black population, which coincides with where the Liberals need votes in order for them to get power. Black people are not disseminated. I mean, yes, you have Black people all the way up north to Yukon, Northwest. You have Black people everywhere. I always tell people, give me the name of the country, no matter how weird it sounds, there is a Black person there, and there's probably some mixed child over there who has a Black father. Okay. But in Canada, just as we have 80 to 90% of the Canadian population that lives within an hour of the US border, 80 to 90% of the Black population lives between Quebec City and Windsor. Very interestingly, if they were to build a high-speed train, something that China has had for years, Japan has, France has, it could greatly participate not only to the development of Canada, but of Black communities as well. So give Carney a chance, if I may, but more importantly, let us Black people develop our own communities independently of who is in power. And
Yes.
other communities, aka Jewish communities, aka Chinese, aka Indian, aka Sikh, SIKH, they do not care who is in power. Yes, they do vote. Yes, they care about the politics, but ultimately, Chinatown does not change because of who is in power. Whoever is in power, they know it is in the best interest to get along with Chinatown, with the Jewish temple, with the Gurdwara of the Sikh community, the Hindu temple, etc., etc. Us, we got Caribana, owned by the Scotia banks and the whichever white banks. Come on. It's embarrassing for us.
Now, see, now things are starting to get interesting again. Now, the Liberals have 161, the Conservatives have 146, the Bloc has 25, the NDP has 9. So now we're beginning to see the British Columbia vote, see how it impacts right now. So, okay, what does so that's one step. So right now, if things stood right now, if the Liberals could get the Liberals get the NDP on board, they've got a minority government as it's going right now. And as Cesar and I were saying earlier, and we're saying also with Ryan and Wayne, now BC comes into play. Now, because basically the Conservatives and Bloc have basically got all the vote. Yeah, I'm just looking at a map here. The Conservatives really picked up a lot in outside of the Greater Toronto area and up north in Ontario. Definitely Alberta, southern part of Manitoba and Saskatchewan. It's stopped now. Now the Liberals can. It depends. It could be very interesting because the Liberals could still I doubt it. They could still maybe eke out a majority government, but right now they're saying, the Conservatives aren't going to catch the Liberals. So the Liberals now, probably the best scenario for the Liberals right now is the NDP don't lose any more seats.
Yeah.
Because is it 300 and how many was it? Like they're not showing it.
The majority is 172.
Okay. So here's the funny thing. In Ontario, though, it's interesting. The Liberals potentially have lost 12 seats. The Conservatives gained 18 seats.
But Dr. Vibe, you will notice where the Conservatives are gaining seats are in rural areas, large on the map, small in population.
But look, in Western Canada, Conservatives have gained 8. The Liberals have gained 6. The NDP has lost 10.
Oh, that's brutal.
Right? So where did a lot of those NDP seats go to? The Liberals.
Yeah.
So the NDP has been basically
feeding the Liberals.
So just to break down, potential seat change in Atlantic Canada, Liberals up 1, Conservatives down 1. In Quebec, Liberals up 10. Bloc Québécois lost 10. In Ontario, Liberals lost 12, Conservatives gained 18. NDP lost 4 in the West. Yeah, so it's very interesting. So Liberals have been losing seats on Ontario, but they gained seats in Quebec.
As I was telling you, in regards to the Bloc Québécois, it would be hard for them to justify the support of the Conservative when, generally speaking, in Quebec, if you're not independentist to vote for the Bloc, you're more likely to vote for the Liberals not because the Liberals support, the Liberals are also anti-independentists, but the Liberals are bilingual.
This is going to be a
Conservatives are the Anglophone party. That is a hard sell as an independentist of Quebec to go support the Anglophone party.
this is going to be a very interesting next parliament. It's going to be very, if it goes like it is right, the Conservatives can have a non-confidence vote and could bring the government down, because between them and the Bloc, well, they have the equal. So if you look at the coalition between the Liberals and the NDP, it's 171 seats. You have the Conservatives and the Bloc Québécois, 171 seats.
But you see, the Bloc, the Bloc is stuck. You cannot claim to be independentist Quebec party and go support the Anglophone party at the federal level. That is not going to fly well at the provincial level. They're going to lose more seats if they do that. They will lose more seats because many independentists will be like, the Bloc is betraying us. And it will reanimate the conversation about should the Bloc even exist as a federal party when they are absolutely not aiming for only represented. But also, it may bring forth the conversation regarding what is it, the Wild Rose Alberta Independentist Party, as they are seeing that there is an independentist party for Quebec.
All right, continuing on, and Black Nerd Talk says, greetings, Dr. Vibe. Greetings to you also, Black Nerd Talks. Good to see you. And of course, Jerry has another question. Cesar, I wonder if have you noticed that the Liberals' immigration policies have increased the Black population substantially when compared to the Conservatives?
Yes, it's just like in the US. It's across the Western world. It is left-leaning parties will tend to be more in favor of immigration, but it's not, as a, how can I put it, out of charity. It's also cheaper labor. It's also population growth in regards to taxation and retirement savings. This is why. Because let's not forget, the Conservative may preach all they want in terms of, patriotism and projecting this image of a white country. The birth rate in the white population is not high. It is barely, I don't remember what it is in Canada, but I know it is below 2.1, 2.2.
Yeah.
Below the reproduction rate to sustain and to grow the population, thus the need of immigration. And as a conservative, it is hard to campaign on a pro-immigration policy, thus they cover it under merit and qualified immigrants for specific jobs, while the real conversation always becomes a matter of labor force for retirement savings for the older generation, which still in Canada is majority white.
So just keeping up here. So right now they're projecting 164 seats for the Liberals. Now it's 163. Well, they're saying 163, 147 for the Conservatives, Bloc Québécois 23, NDP 9. All I'm looking at is the Liberal and NDP combined versus the Conservatives, Bloc Québécois combined.
Don't worry, it won't happen. You're more likely to have the NDP combining with the Liberals, as they've done before many times, than the BQ openly combining with the Conservative. It may absolutely happen in terms of bringing down the government, yes. But in terms of policies,
Well, I would say, and so Mignon Camp says the stats of Canadians without children is increasing. Yes, more and more young Canadians are going, no, don't want children, can't afford children, can't afford a house can't afford to live on their own, can't afford children, can't afford a place to have a family.
And overwhelmingly, we're talking about what kind of Canadians? White Canadians.
Mm-hmm. 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 100%. It's
But
going to be
this situation is unbearable. The governments in the West look, and very much as an EDI professional, we need to create societies in which whatever the skin color, and I don't care about white privilege in what I'm saying here, white people, to kind of give this racialist talk, white people will want to be with another white person partner, have a white family, deserve the chance and opportunity to have that in the same way as we celebrate Black love and we celebrate Black family and Black community. The issue must not be about having more or less white population, but
Mhm.
the increasing of non-white population must be with better resources, not to starting with for indigenous populations, just as for many white people dealing with notably poverty, disabilities, mental health, etc. They must be allowed to have resources for all that. We must also be able to talk about white privilege.
So many on Kansas, you need to attend Child Free Day. It's in August. It's more multicultural than you think.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Minnie. Thank you. And I mean, of course, I do know. I know, of course, there's even among non-blacks, but overwhelmingly the Western world, when they talk about the crisis of birth rate, it's overwhelming in regards to white populations because the immigration is overwhelmingly from non-white populations coming to Western countries.
I'm just taking a look. One of the things I'm paying attention to see if Kamal Kara is going to get her seat back. And right, I'm just waiting to see what happens here. That because that's a very much South Asian community. Yeah, she doesn't look like she's going to win. She is, but 100 out of 137, and she's behind by at least 1,000 votes. So don't know if she's going to take. Now, right now, it's 162 Liberal, 149 Conservative, Bloc Québécois 23. So Liberals, it's 343. So that means 172. So liberals are going to need some help. Right now they're going to need some help because they need 172 in total. Right now between them and the NDP, it's only 170. So the bloc comes back into play unless they can increase their seat count in BC or at least hold on, but the bloc is going to be the key player. Now the thing is, can they get a deal? Can the Liberals and them get a deal? Because the Liberals need the bloc. They need the bloc no matter what. The NDP they can do with or without. So the Bloc Québécois is going to be the king player. Cesar, do you see us having another election federal-wise in the next 2 years?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The temptation and the political calculations are too great for that not to appear, for that not to occur, notably with let me see, in relation also with the electoral map of the United States regarding the midterm. So Trump's 100 days are literally coming with Canadian elections.
It's actually tomorrow. His 100 days is tomorrow.
There you go. It's Dr. Vibe. It's in 10 minutes.
That's right. Exactly. It's in 10 minutes.
And then the midterms are coming. We are bound to have that election also because, how can I put it? When we're looking at what may happen, there is a question of leadership for the Conservative that will be brought forward. whoever becomes the new leader will have to assert themselves, will need to assert themselves. I talk about a hot summer in
I
the US
think it's gonna be on both sides of the border.
on both sides of the
It's
border.
on both sides of the border, man. Both sides of the border. I think okay, Jerry, you have a question here. Last question. Why
Mhm.
are why other minority groups like East Indians? I don't understand that question.
Seems like maybe Brother Jerry, please add to the
Yeah,
question. It
add
seems
to
like
that.
there's something missing.
You need to complete that. I do, there's something missing from that, so we can properly address it. We'll certainly wait for you to give us the full. Jagmeet Singh is 40 out of 200 polls. He's behind in his own riding.
Oh, he's not just behind, he's the third choice. Oh,
He's the
that's
third.
terrible.
He's three behind in his own riding. Not
That's
good.
terrible. Yeah.
There's a so it really, yeah, he's behind. Yeah, he's behind a liberal and a conservative candidate, and he's behind by a lot.
Mhm.
He is behind by a lot. Wow. Matthew Green is in third place in his riding. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. There is it's definitely a lot of change is happening. A lot of change, because again, if Matthew Green, oh, okay, Jerry says, sorry for the last question. Why are other minority groups, East Indians, Asians, AMS, Latinos, more open to voting for right-wing parties?
Well, for one, they're not black. They're not black. The targeting and the history of racism in Canada is different. Uh, when we talk about racism, first and foremost, people are looking at black people and number two, indigenous people in the Americas. But also, because of that, there have been, it's easy to think they work harder or better work ethics than black people. Well, that's not exactly true. You know, nobody thought black people were lazy when there was slavery. Those communities tend to be more connected to the roots and also to have more support in regards to community base, which is something that tends to lack too much to black communities. When black communities have it, you can see a perfect example of this. Nigerians and Ghanaians do better than African Americans in the United States because they have a stronger community base, which also links with spirituality, a sense of identity, a resource pool slash support network that makes a difference. Which black communities, we talk about African Americans, African Canadians, they tend to lack. They tend to lack. Look, Lebanese communities tend to do better than black communities, whether we talk about Canada or we talk about Brazil. It's not just because they're not black, it's also the support, the network, the trust relationship, the fact that they're not trying to just assimilate slash whitewash themselves into the white community. These are things. That's why when I talk about the three cancers of the black psyche, entertainment, consumerism, and religion, I always say it starts at home. The black consciousness starts at home. The black spirituality starts at home. So that, as we were talking yesterday, Dr. Vibe, we gave the example of black athletes. Too many, not all, but too many will end up with white women. I do not oppose interracial relationships, like my brother, Dr. Umar Johnson, but the issue becomes, and this is what I pose, when these relationships are under fetishism, under white beauty standards, white lust, a white pedestal, which basically makes it that the money, the power, the wealth of the Black community goes to another community. Those communities don't suffer of such, and they do have interracial relationships, but they are stronger communities, and thus they become easier to court for those conservative slash right wing.
Okay. I think we're going to probably in the next few minutes we're going to shut it down. So right now, again, nothing has really been resolved. Again, the Liberals are it looks like the Liberals are gonna need the Bloc Québécois' help. And if the Bloc Québécois says no to them, then the Conservatives could form the government.
I've been sent an information. It's from TikTok. I don't have TikTok, but a screenshot was sent to me from TikTok that Doug Ford has turned his support behind Mark Carney, saying that it's not about party lines, it's about what's best for Canada. And what is it again? And Carney gets it or something like that. Yeah. So I don't have TikTok, but if anyone does, or if someone can verify that.
Yeah, but and all good that he puts his support, but the Liberals are stuck. So the question will become so Bloc Québécois will have the say of where Canada goes next federally. They will have the say. It looks right now, Liberals with the NDP will have 169 seats. They need 172. Okay, so now it keeps on going back and forth. Liberals, it's going to be the big watch. If the Liberals can eke out a few, one or at least two more seats, and they'll probably have to steal them from the NDP.
Yeah.
Then they can get a majority government with a goal. And I don't think the NDP is going to do anything soon to try and try to bring down the government, because they're in no shape right now to go to another election in the near future. They are in, but see, it keeps on going back. I think it's the Bloc Québécois who's going to be the key swing maker. The Bloc Québécois. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dr. Ryan.
Yeah, it's the Bloc Québécois who's going to call the shots. Okay, so in Manitoba, the Liberals gained 2 seats. The NDP lost 2 seats. The biggest loser tonight is the NDP. But the percentage of seats that they have has just they've lost. They've lost seats. Like they're a single digit party now. Yeah, they're a single digit party. Going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. Again, I'm just taking a look here. A riding result, Churchill, Manitoba. The NDP beaten by a Liberal. But the Liberals lost a lot of seats in Ontario. And it's very interesting how Ontario was so behind Doug Ford and Doug Ford, this anti 47, but they're more aligned. I believe when the next election happens, if the Liberals don't do a good job, they're going to get swept. They're going to get cleaned out. There's enough support with the PC party right now that they could. The PCs, yeah, I don't think Poilievre's going to be. Something tells me he's not going to be gone.
Man, I'm telling you,
I don't know if he's going to be gone or not. Right now, he's if again
do we even know for sure that he wins that he won his seat?
Good question. Good question. Good question. You know, I haven't
Because
seen
the
like,
party may be doing better than we thought, but
but
if
but
he
here
can't even win his own seat,
but here's a big concern for the Liberals. If you take a look on the voting map, outside of Great Metropolitan Toronto, it's all conservative. Like they're leading or electing
yeah.
20 seats in southwestern Ontario.
Mhm.
That is interesting. That's it. I think Poilievre's going to stay because I believe they'll run a. I have a feeling they'll run a better campaign next time, and I have a feeling that the Conservatives will win next time. They will. They with 149 seats. Yeah, I have a feeling, and it's just very interesting to see on the mindset of Ontarians. You know, their premier supports Carney, but they voted conservative. Like they're behind Poilievre. I think that's very,
There's
very.
gonna be a lot of upset people.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting because we just had recently an Ontario election and Doug Ford won a third mandate, and Doug Ford is if correctly you just shared with us, he is behind Carney.
As I said, I don't have TikTok. It's a screenshot I was sent. I hope it's not some
Well, you never
AI
know.
generated
Yeah,
nowadays, right?
so there's a disalignment in regards to that.
No, I wouldn't say this. Doug Ford has shown, and many people have expressed it. You know, Poilievre does not have this likability factor that Ford has, on top of his experience as a businessman turned politician who has become very successful as a politician and successful without shying away from controversy and confrontation, whether it be regarding francophones or whether it be regarding endorsing the mantle of Captain Canada.
But here's an interesting thing. In southwestern Ontario, the Conservatives got 49% of the vote, 83% of the seats. Liberals got 41% of the vote, only got 17% of the seats.
And again, this will again open up the conversation regarding our voting system and seat redistribution in Canada.
And here we go. National stats. Liberals, 43% of the vote, 162 seats. They have 40% of the seats. Conservatives, 42% of this vote, 149 cents, 49 seats, 43% of the seats. Very tight. So the Conservatives did some catching up over the last few weeks. Again, it's very, very interesting to see if it would have been another few weeks.
Yeah.
If I'm a Liberal, I'm happy, but I'm not overjoyed. Again, it's a much better than they showed that they were looking a few months ago, but they have, again, it doesn't look like things, and they may even still lose some seats because there's some close Liberal races that I'm watching on the screen right now that could swing either way. I wouldn't be surprised if you have a Conservative minority. You're saying the Bloc, and again, you know more about that arena than I do, but the Bloc, they hold the power. Yeah, the Bloc are the, okay. I think, Cesar, I've kept you up long enough.
Yes, my brother.
I would like to say thank you for hanging out with us tonight for it's a little over 3 hours, and things aren't really settled yet, but we have lives and we have families. So I will say, if you want to get a hold of Cesar, it's President at Roots and Culture Canada on Facebook. You can catch him, Cesar Remy Emery. He's also on every Sunday at 5 p.m. live on Black Canada Talking.
Every 2 Sundays.
Every two Sundays he's live on Black Canada Talking. If you want to get hold of me, it's the website is the drvibeshow.com, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, the Dr. Vibe Show, Instagram at the drvibeshow.com, X at drvibeshow, email address dr period vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Also encourage you to subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, hit the notification button. Want to get to 1,790 subscribers? We're at that. Want to get to 1,800 subscribers? That's what we want to get to next. And like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm on. Please feel free to email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And you can watch replays of this show on the Dr. Vibe Show, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and my website, the drvibeshow.com. As always, this is how we finish off. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger, aim better, aim higher and wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both. And then finally, make it better. Thank you, everyone who watches live on the replay. It's appreciated, not taken for granted. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith. Walk good. And Canada's in for some interesting times. Take care. Wow.
Yep.
I feel like I'm in class with Dr. Alicia. That's a class I wouldn't skip. There's some other ones I'd like to skip, but I'm glad I'm not skipping this class tonight. So I am hoping you're catching this live, but if not, certainly catch it on the replay because this is good stuff that Joe is laying down here. I want to get ready. When I saw this today, I said one word. Hi-ya!
Did you really?
I felt like it's an incredible document that I'm going to suggest that you take and use as a lecture piece wherever you want to go.